What if the only thing standing between your business and, absolute recession-proof stability
Right.
wasn't the quality of your product or like the genius of your team or even the state of the economy?
Which is what everyone blames, by the way.
Always. But what if it was literally just a mathematical formula, like a formula for generating strangers who actually want to talk to you?
I mean, it sounds almost too reductive when you phrase it exactly that way.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it actually cuts right to the core of why so many businesses just, well, they live in this constant state of anxiety.
Yeah, totally. You see founders and sales directors, and they're riding these wildly unpredictable feast or famine
Yes.
cycles.
Yeah, the roller coaster.
Exactly. They have this one incredible quarter where they can barely keep up with fulfillment, and they think, we finally made it.
We cracked the code.
Right. And then out of nowhere, they just hit a terrifying dry spell.
The phone stops ringing.
The inbox is just empty. And almost universally, the root cause is that they treat finding new customers like this mystical art form.
Like it's magic, or they think it relies on luck or networking or going viral on social media.
Yeah, going viral is not a business plan.
It's really not. They treat it like magic rather than what it actually must be if you want to survive, which is a predictable, mechanical, and honestly, deeply unsexy process.
So we are going to strip away the mystery today for anyone listening right now who has ever stared at a revenue projection spreadsheet.
Look, that pit in your stomach.
Oh, that awful pit in your stomach. This deep dive is for you. We're unpacking the foundational strategies of Robert W. Bly's book, The Lead Generation Handbook.
Specifically, we're looking at the introduction and the first core chapters, pages 16 through 37.
Right. And our mission today is not to talk about like abstract brand awareness
Fair.
or clever copywriting tricks. We are extracting the exact mechanics of transforming lead generation from a stressful guessing game into a rigid science.
A predictable science. You're going to learn the actual mathematics of planning a campaign from scratch.
And the hidden psychology of crafting offers that prospects just can't ignore.
Because that transition from hope to science, that is the most critical leap any business can make.
Yeah, because once you grasp these mechanics, you stop being a victim of the broader economy.
Exactly. You gain the ability to dial your revenue up or down at will. You just manipulate the inputs of a proven system.
But to get there, you have to fundamentally change how you view your marketing assets in the first place, right? Like what you are actually asking them to do.
Yes. You have to start at the foundational mindset. Because before we can generate leads, we have to agree on what a lead actually is,
And what it is not.
which is just as important. So the handbook uses this deceptively simple definition from Penham Publications, which is a publisher of trade journals.
Okay.
They define a sales lead simply as expressed customer interest in a product or service.
Express customer interest. That's it.
That's literally it. It is someone raising their hand.
Just a hand raise.
Right. And to understand where this fits into the grand scheme of your business, the text brings in this concept from a guy named Murray Ruffell. He calls it the loyalty ladder.
The loyalty ladder. Let's break that down for the listener because I feel like a lot of people try to skip the bottom rungs of this ladder.
Oh, they absolutely try to skip them.
Yeah.
And it usually results in catastrophic marketing failure.
Wow. Okay, so what is it?
So it's a way to visualize the entire life cycle of a buyer. It's broken down into 5 distinct rungs. At the very bottom, like down in the mud, you have the suspect.
The suspect. I mean, it sounds like a true crime podcast.
It really does. But in this context, the suspect represents your total addressable universe.
Meaning everyone who could possibly buy from you.
Exactly. These are all the people out there who could theoretically buy your product. They have the problem you solve, they have the budget to pay for it, but, and this is key, they are total strangers to you.
They don't know you exist.
And you don't know who they are. They're just out there. So that's rung 1.
Got it.
The next rung up, step 2, is the prospect. This is a suspect who has finally stepped out of the shadows and made an inquiry.
They raised their hand.
Yes. They've given you their name, maybe an email address, or a phone number. Now, they haven't bought a single thing yet.
Right. No money has changed hands.
Exactly.
No.
But they have signaled, I am open to a conversation.
Okay, so suspect then prospect. And the goal is obviously to keep moving them up. So rung 3 would be the customer. That's when they finally open their wallet and buy something once, right?
Yep, the first transaction. Then rung 4 is the client. This is someone who buys from you repeatedly. Maybe they're on a retainer, or a subscription, or they just keep coming back.
And then rung 5 at the very top is the advocate.
The holy grail of marketing.
Right. That's the person who buys everything you sell. They refuse to go to your competitors, and they actively recruit new business for you at, like, dinner parties.
Exactly. They do your marketing for you. So that is the complete ladder: suspect, prospect, customer, client, advocate.
Okay.
But here is the critical insight for this entire deep dive today. Lead generation, as a specific discipline, does not care about the top 3 rungs of that ladder.
Wait, I want to pause you right there.
Sure.
Because that feels super counterintuitive. If I'm a marketing director and I'm spending $10,000 on a campaign, my CEO is absolutely going to ask me how many customers we acquired.
Oh, without a doubt.
So you're saying the lead generation campaign itself shouldn't be judged by that?
The ultimate success of the business is judged by revenue and customers, yes. But the specific function of the lead generation asset, like the ad itself, is exclusively concerned with that first terrifying jump.
From suspect to prospect.
Yes. Its sole, singular purpose is converting a suspect into a prospect, getting a stranger to raise their hand. The fundamental mistake businesses make is trying to use a lead-generating advertisement to close a sale on the spot.
They want the ad to do the job of the salesperson.
Precisely. They try to shove the person from rung 1 all the way to rung 3 in a single interaction.
You know, it totally makes me think of modern dating apps.
Oh, how so?
Well, if you're swiping on Tinder or Bumble, your profile picture and that little bio you write, that is your lead generation marketing, right?
Yeah, that's your ad.
And the only goal of that profile is to get someone to swipe right, to get them to say, I am open to a conversation.
Right, just a hand raise.
Exactly. But if you use your dating bio to, like, lay out your 5-year financial plan and your preferred wedding venues and your demand for 3 children right away,
You're gonna look insane.
you are trying to close the sale on step 1. You're going to scare absolutely everyone away. You are asking for a marriage proposal before you've even secured the hand raise.
That analogy holds up perfectly, because both scenarios, dating and B2B marketing, deal heavily with human psychology and the perception of risk.
The perception of risk. Talk more about that.
So a suspect feels safe. They are anonymous.
Right, no one is bothering them.
But the moment they become a prospect, the moment they give you their email, they take on risk. The risk of being sold to, the risk of being hounded by a salesperson, the risk of making a bad financial decision. If your marketing asks for too much commitment up front, the perceived risk is just too high, and they will stay safely hidden as a suspect. Your marketing has to lower that threshold of commitment to absolute 0.
And yet we see companies violating this principle all the time. And honestly, often it's not even because they're aggressively trying to make a sale. It's just to protect their own ego.
Yes, the text calls this out specifically. It's what we can think of as the image trap.
The image trap. Let's ask the listener. Look at your own business right now. Have you ever designed a piece of marketing like a brochure, a website, a print ad, and prioritized how it looks over what it's supposed to do?
The corporate world is so infested with the image trap. The text highlights examples of massive Fortune 1000 corporations. They will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars printing these thick, glossy, beautiful capabilities brochures.
Oh, I've seen those. They look like art magazines.
They do. And yet they explicitly refuse to put a phone number or a reply card anywhere on the document.
Because they think a phone number is too salesy, like it's beneath them.
Right. They believe they're in the business of brand building or image enhancement.
Or consider like an advertising agency art director. They will throw an absolute fit if you try to put a dotted line coupon in the corner of a magazine ad.
Oh, they hate it. They'll argue that the coupon ruins the aesthetics. It clutters the beautiful negative space they've created, and it degrades the prestige of the brand.
It's like engineering a stunning $1 million luxury sports car, hand-stitching the leather seats, polishing the engine to perfection, but then refusing to install a steering wheel.
Because a plastic wheel disrupts the visual flow of the dashboard.
Exactly. It might be beautiful to look at in a museum, but it is completely useless for getting you where you actually need to go. If your marketing doesn't have a steering wheel, a mechanism to capture a lead, it is just expensive modern art.
And that art is being subsidized by the company's shrinking profit margins.
Ouch. Yeah.
If you want a stable business, you have to adopt a mindset that values the captured lead above the nebulous, unquantifiable goals of company image. You have to explicitly call the prospect to action.
And the text contrasts those image-obsessed Fortune 1000 companies with a classic, ruthless example of real lead generation, right? The hair club for men.
Yes, which is such a fascinating pivot. Because nobody in their right mind thinks of hair replacement commercials as high art.
Definitely not.
But they're highly engineered, textbook lead-generating machines.
Mm-hmm.
Think about their television or radio spots from back in the day, targeting men with thinning hair. Notice what they do not do.
What don't they do?
They do not try to sell you a multi-thousand-dollar hair replacement system through the television screen. They don't list the price.
Yeah.
And they don't ask you to call in with your credit card ready to buy.
Because selling a highly personal, expensive, medical-adjacent procedure via a 60-second commercial, that's asking someone to jump from suspect to customer in one terrifying leap. The risk is astronomical for the buyer.
Exactly. The entire commercial is engineered purely to get the hand raise. The call to action is simply, call this toll-free number for a free informational booklet. That's it. Once the suspect becomes a prospect by calling the number, the company sends the literature. It's safe. Then, an appointment is made for a private consultation.
Still pretty safe.
Right. Only then, in a closed room with a trained specialist, after trust has been built and specific problems diagnosed, does the salesperson try to close the deal. They systematically walk the buyer up the ladder, one safe rung at a time.
So the practical takeaway for you, the listener, is an immediate audit of your own assets. Right now, pull up your company's homepage. Look at the last flyer you printed or that last LinkedIn ad you ran. What are you actually asking the stranger to do?
Are you asking them to buy now on a complex, high-ticket service?
Right. Or are you hiding your contact info because you want your website to look like Apple's? If your phone isn't ringing, it might be because you just haven't given people a safe, low-risk way to simply say, I'm interested.
But, fixing that creates a new, entirely different operational problem. Well, let's say you change your marketing today. You follow the advice. You make it incredibly easy and safe for people to raise their hands. Suddenly, your inbox is flooded with thousands of leads.
Which sounds amazing.
At first glance, it sounds like a massive success. But depending on how your business is structured, that flood of leads could actually bankrupt you.
Wow. I am so glad you brought this up because this is where the pure theory hits the harsh reality of payroll and human resources.
Yep.
If we treat lead generation purely as getting hand raises, why wouldn't I just run an ad on Facebook saying, enter your email for a chance to win a free iPad? I'd get 1 million leads by tomorrow morning.
You would. And your sales team would probably murder you.
They absolutely would.
And that's because you've ignored the two crucial dials of the lead generation mixing board. Think of the marketer as a sound engineer.
Okay, I like that visual.
You have one dial that controls the sheer volume of leads coming in, the quantity. And you have another dial that controls the qualification level of those leads, the quality.
Quantity and quality.
Right. And the brutal truth that marketers hate to admit is that these dials are inversely correlated.
Meaning if one goes up, the other goes down.
Exactly. If you crank the volume up to maximum, the average quality of those leads plummets. But if you crank the quality up, demanding only highly qualified, perfect buyers, your volume drops to a tiny trickle.
So how do I know where to set the dials? If both extremes have drawbacks, what dictates the proper setting for my specific business?
It is entirely dictated by your specific sales cycle, specifically whether you operate a two-step system or a three-step system.
Okay, let's look at the two-step cycle first. How does that work?
A two-step system is very straightforward. Step 1, you generate the lead. Step 2, your highly trained, highly paid sales executive follows up immediately to close the sale.
Okay, so if I'm running a two-step system, my senior sales team is dealing directly with every single person who raises their hand. So if I crank the quantity dial up and use that free iPad offer we joked about, my expensive account executives are going to spend 40 hours a week calling people who have no money, no budget, and no interest in our actual software. They are just freebie seekers.
And while your top closers are wasting time on the phone with freebie seekers, they are missing the actual buyers. The opportunity cost is massive.
Yeah, you're burning really expensive human capital on low-value tasks.
Exactly. So in a two-step system, you cannot afford high volume if the quality is low. You must turn the quality dial way up, even if it means sacrificing total numbers. You want fewer leads, but better leads.
Contrast that with the three-step process. How does that change the math?
In a three-step process, you introduce a buffer.
A buffer?
Yeah. Step 1 is generating the lead. But step 2 is a quick, highly standardized qualification process.
Like an SDR team.
Exactly. This is usually handled by lower-cost employees, junior sales reps, appointment setters, or honestly, even automated email sequences. Their only job is to sift the gold from the sand.
They're a filter.
Right. They ask 3 or 4 basic questions to determine if the lead has a pulse and a budget. If they do, then they move to step 3, which is being handed off to the expensive senior closer.
Ah, I see. Because I have that cheap, efficient filtration system in the middle, I really don't care if 80% of the leads are garbage.
No, because the filter catches them before they ever bother your top salespeople.
Right. So in a 3-step system, I actually want to crank that quantity dial all the way up to maximum volume. I want to shovel as much sand into the top of the funnel as possible because my sifting machine can handle it.
Exactly. The internal structure dictates the external strategy. Now, the tactical question becomes, how do we actually turn those dials?
Yeah, physically, what are we doing to the marketing?
Let's say a listener realizes they have a 3-step system. They have an SDR team ready to qualify, and they need to crank the quantity dial up. What are the specific mechanics to increase lead volume?
Well, the core mechanism for increasing quantity is systematically destroying friction. You literally have to look at your offer and ask, what is making the prospect hesitate? And then you eliminate it.
And the text lists several explicit tactics for this, right?
It does. First, make everything free. Offer your literature, your catalog, or your initial consultation at absolute zero cost.
That lowers financial friction.
Exactly. Second, strip your forms down to the bare minimum. If you're running a B2B campaign and you are asking a prospect to fill out 12 fields like their company size, their current vendor, their annual revenue, their phone number, just to download a simple white paper, you are adding massive friction.
Every single additional form field you add will mathematically decrease your conversion rate. It's a proven fact.
Yeah. If you just need volume, ask for a name and an email address, period.
What's the third tactic?
Third is removing the friction of the response mechanism itself. Provide a toll-free number, use a prepaid business reply envelope if it's direct mail, or just have a really simple one-click digital submit button.
Make it physically easy to reply.
Right. Fourth, and this goes back to our dating app analogy, explicitly remove the perceived risk of sales pressure.
How do you do that in an ad?
You literally print the words, "No salesperson will call," or "No obligation," right next to the submit button. You have to soothe their anxiety, let them know they are safe.
That is so simple, but so effective.
And fifth, if you really want to blow the doors off your volume, you introduce a premium, you offer a free gift, a physical item, a digital bonus, maybe a discount code just for inquiring, regardless of whether they end up buying.
If you deploy all of those low-friction tactics, your pipeline will absolutely overflow with suspects turning into prospects.
But let's flip the scenario. Let's ask the listener to look at their own business again. What if you are running a boutique agency? You only have 2 partners doing all the sales calls.
A classic 2-step system.
Right. And your calendar is currently clogged with introductory calls with people who have a budget of like $50 when your minimum engagement is $5,000.
You are drowning in bad leads.
How do you turn the quality dial up and turn the volume down?
You do the exact opposite of what we just discussed. You intentionally introduce strategic friction. You build hurdles that only a highly motivated buyer will actually bother to jump over.
Give me an example from the book.
The text suggests something that terrifies most modern marketers. Charging a nominal fee for your introductory literature.
Wait, charge for catalog. If I put a $2 price tag on a PDF download or a printed catalog, my conversion rate is going to absolutely crater. Nobody pays for a catalog.
The casual browsers won't pay for it. The freebie seekers won't pay for it. The people who have no budget won't pay for it.
Right.
And that is the entire point. By introducing a tiny financial hurdle, you instantly weed out the bottom 80% of your unqualified audience. The person who does pull out their credit card for a $2 catalog is demonstrating a massive level of intent.
Oh, I see.
When your senior partner calls that person, they are talking to a highly qualified, highly motivated buyer.
That is a fascinating psychological filter. But what if I'm in an industry where I just can't charge money for initial info? What are other ways to add friction?
You add friction through effort. Remember those 12 form fields we eliminated earlier to get high volume?
Yeah, put them back.
Put them back. Force the prospect to answer detailed questions about their timeline, their current infrastructure, and their executive sponsor. Force them to pay the postage on the reply card.
Just make it annoying for anyone who isn't serious.
Exactly. Put a disclaimer in bold text that says, serious inquiries only, minimum budget of $5,000 required. And if you are offering a free gift, stipulate that the gift is only delivered in person by your sales representative after a completed full-length demonstration.
You are basically making them earn the right to talk to you.
Yes.
I love how this reframes the whole concept of a good or bad conversion rate. Because in marketing, we're taught that a high conversion rate is always good. But a low conversion rate isn't a failure if it's the result of intentional, strategic friction protecting your team's time.
The takeaway here for the listener is to stop looking at marketing tactics in a vacuum. A tactic is only good or bad, depending on the capacity of your sales apparatus. Tomorrow morning, go talk to your sales team. Are they bored and starving for conversations? Lower the friction. Are they burned out, annoyed, and complain about garbage leads? Raise the friction. Align your dials with their capacity.
Which naturally brings us to the most brutal, unforgiving part of this entire process.
The math.
The math. We know how to turn the dials. We know we want hand raises. But how do we know if the machine is actually profitable? We have to do the math.
The text calls this the back-of-the-envelope plan. And it really is the blueprint for a predictable business.
This is where the hope-based marketers get very, very uncomfortable because math doesn't care about your branding or your logo or how hard you worked on the copy.
It strips away all the emotion. It forces you to look at the raw mechanics of your acquisition engine. The text breaks this down into a sequential formula: income objective, average unit of sale, conversion rate, lead rate, and finally, your mailing activity level.
You know, let's not just talk about the theory here. Let's actually run the numbers together. I think walking through a role play is the best way to prove how this works to the listener.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll play the role of the business owner. Let's start with a high-ticket, low-volume business. Let's say I run a specialized consulting firm, and my goal, my income objective, is to gross $100,000 in new revenue this year from this specific lead generation campaign.
Okay, $100,000 in new revenue for the year. To make this operational, we need to break that down into a monthly target.
So divide by 12.
Right. We divide $100,000 by 12, which gives us a monthly income goal of roughly $8,334.
Got it.
Now, we need your average unit of sale. When a new client signs a contract with your consulting firm, what is the average value of that deal?
My packages are fairly premium. An average engagement for me is $5,000.
Excellent. So to hit your $8,334 monthly revenue goal, we divide that by your $5,000 unit price. That means you only need to close 1.6 sales. Let's round up and call it 2 sales every single month to hit your target.
Okay, 2 clients a month equals a 6-figure run rate. That sounds incredibly doable.
It does.
Yeah.
But you don't close everyone you talk to. What is your conversion rate? Out of all the qualified leads that get on a discovery call with you, what percentage actually sign the $5,000 contract?
Well, I have a high friction funnel, so the people I talk to are pretty serious. Let's say I close 20% of them. 1 out of every 5 prospects I talk to becomes a client.
Okay, so if you close 20% and you need 2 sales a month, we divide 2 by 0.20. That means you need to generate exactly 10 qualified leads every single month.
10 conversations.
You need 10 conversations to get 2 clients to make your $10,000.
Right.
Now we arrive at the marketing asset itself. What is the response rate of your marketing? If you send out a direct mail package or an email blast or a LinkedIn message, what percentage of total strangers raise their hand to become one of those 10 leads?
Let's say it's cold outreach, so the response rate is realistically low. Let's say I have a solid piece of direct mail that gets a 2% response rate. 2 out of 100 people raise their hand.
Here is the moment of truth. To get your 10 required leads, we divide 10 by your 0.02 response rate.
Wait, so 10 divided by 0.02, that's 500.
It is 500. You need to mail 500 pieces of direct mail every single month.
It is incredibly sobering when you lay it out exactly like that, because it completely changes what I worry about when I wake up in the morning.
How so?
Well, I don't wake up wondering, am I going to make $100,000 this year? That question is too big, it's too scary, and it's largely out of my direct daily control.
Right.
The only question I have to answer today is, did we send our 500 mailers this month? Because if I know my unit economics hold up, the inputs guarantee the outputs.
It creates total operational clarity.
Yeah.
But let me push back on this scenario for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Because the high-ticket example makes the math look a little too easy.
Fair enough.
Let's run the exact same $100,000 goal, but apply it to a high-volume, low-margin business. Let's say instead of $5,000 consulting, you were selling a $50 software subscription. What happens to the math?
Oh, man, this is going to get ugly. Okay, let's do it. The monthly goal is still $8,334, but my unit of sale is only $50, so I divide $8,334 by $50. I need 167 sales every month, not 2.
Right, 167 sales. And let's say your conversion rate from a free trial lead to a paid user is 10%. You divide 167 sales by 0.10, you need 1,670 leads every single month.
And if my marketing only gets that same 2% response rate, I divide 1,670 by 0.02. I have to send 83,500 marketing messages every single month.
Now look at the physical reality of that number. If you were using direct mail and it costs you 50 cents to print and mail a postcard, sending 83,500 postcards will cost you $41,750 a month in marketing expenses just to generate $8,334 in revenue.
Wow.
Your business model is fundamentally broken. You will go bankrupt in weeks.
That is exactly why founders resist doing this math. It exposes the fatal flaws in their business model that they were hoping to cover up with hustle or luck.
Hustle can't fix that math.
No. If the math shows that I'm spending $40,000 to make $8,000, I have nowhere to hide. I can't just tell my team to work harder. I have to fundamentally change the economics of the business.
You do. You have to either drastically increase your unit of sale, drastically improve your conversion rate, or find a marketing channel that costs a fraction of a penny per impression instead of 50 cents.
The math forces you to confront the elasticity of your funnel. It tells you exactly where the bottleneck is. And for the listener, this is your assignment for today. Grab an envelope, grab a napkin, open a spreadsheet, and run this exact formula for your primary product.
Do not guess. Find out exactly how many outbound actions you need to take this month to hit your survival number. Know your baseline.
But let's say the math does work out. Let's go back to our first scenario where I just need to mail 500 letters a month.
The consulting firm.
Right. I can't just print 500 letters that say, "We exist, we are great, please give us $5,000. If I mail that, my response rate isn't going to be 2%, it's going to be 0.
Absolutely zero.
The math only works if the marketing piece actually generates a response, and that requires a compelling offer. Which brings us to the psychology of what we are actually putting in the mail.
The offer is the beating heart of the campaign. The text provides a very precise definition of this. An offer is the combination of what the prospect gets when they respond and what they have to do to get it.
It's a transaction of effort and reward.
Exactly. And the text points out a massive, pervasive mistake in B2B lead generation. The single offer campaign.
Yeah, explain that.
Companies will send out an expensive mailer or run a pricey LinkedIn ad, and they only give the prospect one single way to respond. And usually it's something aggressive like, call us to buy.
Which is marketing malpractice. To understand why, we have to look at the 4 fundamental types of offers the text outlines: soft, hard, negative, and deferred.
Let's start by contrasting the 2 most common, the soft offer and the hard offer. A soft offer is low friction, high safety. The prospect is simply requesting printed material, a digital download, or a piece of information.
So there's no pressure.
Crucially, no. A soft offer does not require the prospect to endure any face-to-face or voice-to-voice communication with a salesperson. They are raising their hand, but from a safe distance.
It's the send me the free brochure option, highly appealing to the curious suspect who wants to remain somewhat anonymous. Now, compare that to a hard offer.
A hard offer demands personal contact. You are asking the prospect to agree to an in-person meeting, a phone consultation, a live demonstration, or an on-site estimate.
Yeah.
You are asking them to step into the arena with a closer.
And this is where the text dives deep into buyer psychology, because it states that the most widely used hard offer in business history is simply have a salesperson call.
Yes.
And it also states that this is arguably the absolute worst offer you could possibly make. Why is that specific phrasing so toxic?
You have to look at it through the lens of the buyer's anxiety. When you say, have a salesperson call, you are broadcasting your intentions. The word salesperson is loaded with negative connotations.
Oh, totally.
It implies pressure, manipulation, and an uneven power dynamic. It tells the prospect that the impending conversation is designed entirely to benefit the seller. Nobody on earth wakes up, pours their coffee, and thinks, I really hope a salesperson traps me on the phone for 45 minutes today.
It violates the fundamental rule of value. You are asking them for their time, which is valuable, and offering them a sales pitch in return, which is a negative value.
Precisely.
So how do we fix it? If we are running a 2-step system, we still need that personal contact. We need them to talk to us.
You have to reframe the interaction so that the initial contact provides intrinsic value to the prospect, regardless of whether they ever buy your product.
Give me an example.
Instead of saying call to arrange a sales presentation, you change the offer to call for a free, no-obligation consultation with a home installation specialist, including a customized written analysis of your potential energy savings.
Wow. The difference in positioning there is staggering. One sounds like I'm going to be bullied into writing a check, and the other sounds like I'm receiving hundreds of dollars worth of expert consulting for absolutely free.
Exactly. Even if I don't buy your insulation, I still want that energy analysis. The value is decoupled from the purchase.
That is huge.
The text gives a brilliant example of this involving a B2B software company. They were selling a highly complex, expensive program used to build custom database applications.
Okay.
They were in a meeting with a very skeptical prospect who challenged them, asking, "How long would it take to actually build my specific application using your software?"
Now, a bad salesperson would answer that with a verbal pitch. Oh, it's very fast. We are industry leaders. Our architecture is robust. Just empty buzzwords.
But the salesperson in this example understood the ultimate hard offer. Instead of talking, they sat down at a computer terminal, asked the prospect for their parameters, and proceeded to build a working prototype of the application right there in the room in under 30 minutes.
That is incredibly bold.
It was. The prospect was so overwhelmed by the sheer, undeniable proof of value that they immediately said, "Decision made. We are buying."
That is the power of the demonstration. And the text notes, you can package that as a hard offer in a direct mail piece. Reply now, and our engineers will prototype your application in 30 minutes, absolutely free. That is an offer a qualified buyer cannot ignore.
Now let's look at the other two types of offers, because they are often overlooked but incredibly useful. The deferred offer and the negative offer.
I understand the deferred offer. That's just delaying the financial commitment, right?
Yeah. This is your classic 30-day free trial or evaluation period. Use the equipment for a month. If you don't like it, send it back and you owe nothing. It removes the barrier of financial risk, trading it for the friction of implementation.
Right. But I have to admit, the negative offer completely threw me when I read this chapter.
It throws a lot of people.
The text suggests putting a checkbox on your reply card that says, "Not interested right now because," and then leaving a blank line for them to fill in. Why on earth would I spend my marketing budget giving a prospect an explicit, easy way to tell me no? That feels like self-sabotage. I want them to say yes.
It feels counterintuitive, but think about the data you are gathering. In a normal campaign, if someone doesn't respond, they are just a silent void.
True.
You have no idea why they didn't buy. Was the price too high? Do they already have a vendor? Did the mailer just get lost? You learned absolutely nothing.
Okay, I see where this is going.
If you include a negative offer and 100 people take the time to check the box and write, "Not interested because we only use IBM equipment," or "Not interested because our budget cycle isn't until Q4, you just struck gold."
You have collected vital market intelligence directly from your target audience.
Exactly. You can take all those Q4 responses and put them in a highly targeted follow-up sequence for October. You can take the IBM objections and write a brand new piece of marketing specifically titled "Why IBM Users Are Switching to Us."
You are turning a rejection into actionable data that improves your next campaign's conversion rate. That is brilliant.
So, bring this back to the listener's practical application. The rule of thumb for the psychology of the offer is redundancy. Never, ever send a piece of marketing without at least 2 response options.
Right, you need a primary hard offer for the hot buyers, the people ready for the free consultation or the prototype.
But you must also have a secondary soft offer to catch the curious suspects who are interested but too nervous to talk to a human. If you only offer a hard offer, you're leaving massive amounts of future revenue on the table.
And that leads us to the final and arguably most powerful concept in this section. If you need a secondary soft offer to catch those hesitant buyers, what should that offer actually be?
Well, the text is adamant that offering a standard corporate brochure is a weak strategy. The ultimate soft offer is what Bly calls the bait piece.
The bait piece. I love the imagery of that. We're fishing in a massive ocean of suspects, and we need the right bait on the hook. Why is a corporate brochure bad bait? If someone wants to know about my company, shouldn't I send them a brochure about my company?
Because the harsh truth is, the prospect doesn't care about your company.
Ouch.
It's true. They care about their problems. A brochure screams sales pitch. It signals that the document is going to be filled with self-serving claims about how great you are, pictures of your office building, and a list of your features. The prospect perceives no intrinsic value in reading your brochure.
Right. Why would I trade my contact info for a sales pitch?
Exactly. An informational bait piece, on the other hand, screams value. It is a special report, a booklet, or a guide that promises to solve a specific, painful problem the prospect is currently facing.
This is the subtle art of trading information for attention. Let's look at the real-world examples the text provides. Imagine IBM is trying to sell business software. They could offer a soft offer that says, send for our 20-page catalog of IBM software products.
But instead, they offered a booklet titled Choosing Business Software.
The difference is night and day. One is a product catalog, the other is a buyer's guide.
Or take a company trying to sell commercial collection services to businesses struggling with unpaid invoices.
Yeah.
They didn't offer a brochure titled Why Our Collection Agency is the Best.
They offered an informational guide called 15 Ways to Improve Your Collection Efforts.
Now think about the buyer. If I'm a business owner and my receivables are 90 days past due, I am losing sleep over that. If you offer me a brochure about your agency, I'll ignore it.
But if you offer me 15 practical tips I can use today to get my money, I am 100% giving you my contact information to get that guide. I need the information.
Yes.
But here is the trap, and I really want to push on this. If I write 15 ways to improve your collection efforts, and tip number 1 is hire our agency, and tip number 2 is seriously hire us, we are great, the prospect is going to feel completely bait and switched. They're going to throw it in the trash and be actively angry at me.
Oh, that is the quickest way to destroy the trust you just built. The text is very clear on the rules of the bait piece. Body of the report must be pure, unbiased, genuinely helpful information.
No pitching.
No pitching. You promised them knowledge, and you must deliver real value. If they implement your 15 tips on their own and never hire you, the guide should still work for them. However, that does not mean the bait piece isn't doing heavy lifting for your sales process. You use the unbiased information to subtly pre-sell the reader on your specific methodology.
How exactly do you do that without sounding like a pitch? How do I write an unbiased guide that still makes them want to buy from me?
You do it by educating the buyer on the criteria they should use to evaluate solutions. Let's say you sell a highly specific piece of computer-automated telemarketing software. The major differentiator of your software is that it integrates natively with Salesforce, while your competitors don't.
Okay, I'm following.
You write a bait piece called How to Choose the Right Computer-Automated Telemarketing Software. In the guide, you objectively explain all the different features a buyer should consider: uptime, user interface, analytics. But you dedicate a significant portion of the guide to explaining why native CRM integration, specifically with Salesforce, is the single most critical factor in preventing data loss and boosting rep efficiency.
Ah, I see. It's like a Trojan horse. It is filled with genuine, helpful advice, but by the time they finish reading it, their internal criteria for what makes good software has been perfectly aligned with the exact features my product happens to have.
Exactly. I haven't pitched my product once, but I've educated them into believing my specific methodology is the only logical choice. You are establishing the buying criteria before they even look at your competitors. You have positioned yourself as the ultimate objective authority.
But wait, when do I actually ask for the sale?
When it comes time for the actual pitch, the text provides specific layout rules. You do not put the sales pitch in the body of the text. You isolate it. You place it on the inside front cover or on the back page in a section that reads like an About the Author biography. That is where you state, the author of this report operates a company that specializes in these solutions. If you would like help implementing these strategies, call this number. It preserves the integrity of the information while still providing a clear path to purchase.
This is such a powerful strategy, but practically speaking, producing these reports sounds really expensive. If I have to write and print custom-bound booklets for every campaign, and then my product features change 6 months later, I'm stuck with boxes of useless, expensive booklets. The text offers a really clever physical production tip to get around this, doesn't it?
Yes, the trap-in binder technique. It's a brilliant cost-saving measure for B2B marketers. If you are producing a manual, report, or a proposal in volume, do not pay a printer to imprint your cover design directly onto expensive 3-ring binders.
That gets pricey fast.
Instead, you buy high-quality blank binders that have a clear plastic sleeve on the front cover trap-in. Then, you print your custom cover design on a standard glossy sheet of paper and simply slide it into the sleeve.
It looks custom bound, but it's completely modular. If your report title changes or your branding updates, or you want to customize the title for a specific enterprise, client-like printing, a custom analysis for General Electric on the cover, you don't have to throw away $500 worth of binders.
Right, you just print a new 10-cent piece of paper and slide it in. It allows you to maintain the high perceived value of a physical book without the rigid costs of traditional publishing.
And for companies that have a truly exceptional, lengthy bait piece, one that is proven to generate high-quality leads over years. The text notes that you can take it to the ultimate extreme.
You can self-publish it as an actual mass-market paperback book, exactly like IBM did. When your bait piece is an actual book with an ISBN number, your authority level becomes unimpeachable.
But whether it's a 200-page hardcover book or a 4-page PDF checklist, the fundamental function remains identical. The bait piece exists to overcome prospect inertia. It lowers the perceived risk of engaging with a stranger down to absolute zero.
Yes.
Even if the prospect requests your report and leaves it sitting on their digital desktop, never actually reading a single word of it, which, let's be honest, happens constantly.
All the time.
The bait piece has still successfully completed its primary mission. It got a suspect who was hiding in the shadows to raise their hand, give you their contact information, and become a prospect. Once you have that inquiry, your qualification and sales process can take over.
If we pull all of these tactical threads back, and look at the larger tapestry of this chapter, it really synthesizes into one clear, unyielding insight.
What's that?
The absolute soul of this text, and the secret to building that recession-proof business we talked about at the very beginning, is realizing that successful lead generation is the deliberate intersection of strict mathematics and empathetic human psychology.
Mathematics and psychology, the calculator and the heartbeat.
Exactly. On the mathematical side, it's the cold, hard reality of the back-of-the-envelope plan. It is knowing your unit economics so intimately that you never operate on blind hope again.
Right.
You know exactly how many hands need to be raised to meet payroll, and you know exactly how much friction to apply to those leads to keep your sales team operating at peak efficiency. But math alone isn't enough because you are dealing with humans.
And humans are complicated.
On the psychological side, it's about deeply understanding the buyer's anxiety. It's knowing that people are terrified of salespeople and pressure, but they are desperately starving for helpful information and solutions to their problems.
When you can successfully merge those two disciplines, when you systematically reach the exact mathematically required number of people, and you offer those specific people extreme risk-free value in the form of bait piece, asking only for permission to start a relationship, you stop gambling.
You create a mechanical engine that predictably, reliably moves strangers from suspects to prospects. You take control of your pipeline, regardless of what the economy is doing.
And now that we understand the math required to hit those goals, and the psychological framework behind crafting an irresistible offer, the next logical hurdle is execution.
Always the hardest part.
How do you actually put those psychological triggers onto the physical page? How do you write the words that get the envelope opened? Next time, we will be dissecting the exact direct mail formats, the page layouts, and the specific telemarketing scripts that take these newly visible leads and convert them into paying clients.
That is where the high-level strategy meets the street-level execution.
But before you close out of this deep dive and go back to your day, I want you to look at your own industry and think about this final provocative thought. Right now, in your market, every single one of your competitors is standing on a soapbox, screaming at the top of their lungs, "Buy my product, we are the best, give us your money."
It's deafening.
What would happen to your market share if your company stepped off the soapbox, walked directly into the crowd, and became the only voice whispering, "Here is a free piece of information to solve the exact problem you are struggling with today"? When it is finally time for those buyers to open their wallets, who do you think they are actually going to trust? Ensure you are the one offering value before you ask for a commitment. Have a great day.
What if the difference between a business that's, barely scraping by and one that is literally turning away customers isn't the quality of the product at all,
Right.
but a straightforward mathematical equation and a psychological shift in how you use the word free?
I mean, it's a completely provocative question, but it gets right to the heart of why so many ventures just struggle.
Yeah.
We see entrepreneurs constantly obsessing over their product, tweaking features, improving the service.
Oh, totally.
But they treat the actual acquisition of customers like this, like mystical art form.
Right, like it's magics or something.
Exactly. They rely on serendipity. They just hope word of mouth is going to save them.
Just crossing their fingers.
Yeah. But the reality is businesses fail not because they have inferior offerings,
Yeah.
but because they just haven't engineered a systematic, predictable queue of eager prospects.
And that is exactly what we are dissecting in today's deep dive. We are looking at a definitive blueprint for planning a lead generation campaign. Because, the goal here is to take all that guesswork out of growth.
Right, absolutely.
We're going to look at how to actually reverse engineer your revenue goals using basic math, how to craft offers that prospects actually want to engage with, and how to deliver those offers with real precision.
Yeah, it's so crucial.
So if you're in business or, planning to be, this is really about transforming the anxiety of getting customers into a measurable, repeatable science.
And, that transition from anxiety to predictability just changes the entire culture of a company.
Boy, I bet.
When you're sitting by the phone just hoping it rings, you operate from this place of total desperation.
Right, you'll take anyone.
Exactly. You take bad clients, you discount your prices, you just compromise.
Yeah.
But when you have a system that can, cost effectively generate a massive volume of qualified leads on demand, you get your control back. You dictate your terms.
So let's start with the foundation then. The source material we're looking at today is super ancient that before you even think about what your marketing materials look like.
What clever copy you're going to write.
Right, exactly. You have to lock down your targeting because blasting a message to everyone is just a fantastic way to go bankrupt really quickly.
Precisely. I mean, market segmentation is always step one.
Always.
And it's something people, they nod along to, but very few actually execute it with the required ruthlessness.
Right, they get scared of leaving people out.
Yes. You can segment geographically, demographically by the type of product or even the specific type of business.
Okay.
But the core objective is to narrow your focus so intensely that you aren't wasting a single dollar or minute on someone who, lacks the capacity or the desire to buy from you.
Consider a freelance commercial photographer trying to get a business off the ground. Let's call him Tom.
Okay, poor Tom.
Right. If you're a new photographer with bills to pay, your immediate instinct is just survival. You will shoot absolutely anything that moves.
Yeah, whatever pays the rent.
Exactly. You'll do a corporate headshot on Monday, a friend's wedding on Saturday, and a toddler's birthday party on Sunday.
Which keeps you incredibly busy, sure.
Yeah, running around all week.
And it might even pay the rent for a few months, but it's fundamentally unscalable.
Right.
You are waiting for random life events to happen to random people in your network.
So what's the alternative for Tom?
Well, what a structured targeting approach demands is that this photographer stops being a generalist and starts aiming his promotions exclusively at specific decision makers.
Yeah.
He needs to identify advertising agencies, PR firms, high-end catalog producers, corporate communications directors.
So those are the people with ongoing recurring budgets, right?
Exactly.
Like a bride hires you once. An ad agency might hire you 20 times a year.
Right. It's about lifetime value.
Yeah.
But it requires the discipline to just ignore the random one-off jobs in order to focus all your marketing capital on the people who can sustain your business long term.
Which is hard when you're starting out and need cash.
It's terrifying, but it's necessary.
The material actually contrasts this concept with a completely different industry, like a local high-end gourmet food store.
Oh, right, the cheese shop.
Yeah. Let's say you open a shop selling imported cheeses, expensive caviar, artisanal meats. The temptation, especially for local retail, is just to blanket the neighborhood.
Oh, totally. Print 10,000 cheap flyers.
Yes. And just pay some high school kids to stuff them under the windshield wipers of every single car within a 3-mile radius.
And we have all seen businesses do exactly that.
I pull them off my car all the time.
Right. But let's analyze the medium and the message there. What is the psychological disconnect?
I mean, it feels cheap.
Exactly. A cheaply printed flyer stuffed under a windshield wiper inherently signals cheap takeout. It signals low value.
It's an annoyance. I'm literally just pulling it up my car and throwing it in the trash.
Right. So if your target audience consists of, affluent consumers who value presentation, exclusivity, luxury,
The caviar people.
that medium actively repels them. Wow. Yeah.
You might attract a few curiosity seekers looking for a discount, but you will completely alienate your actual target market.
Because the medium doesn't match the message.
Exactly. The medium you choose for your lead generation has to be perfectly congruent with the psychological profile of that target segment.
So targeting isn't just about finding the right people. It's about ensuring that how you reach them doesn't contradict the value of what you're actually selling.
Beautifully said.
Okay, let's assume we have our target market locked in. We know exactly who the decision makers are, what they value, where they operate.
The easy part is done.
Right. Now we get to the part that I find genuinely fascinating because it takes all the emotion out of the process. It's the math formula for reverse engineering your revenue.
This is where we move from marketing theory into just pure financial reality.
I love this part.
When you turn an abstract income goal into a daily or weekly activity metric, it completely removes the paralysis that so many entrepreneurs feel.
Because you're not guessing anymore. Right. You no longer wake up worrying about how to make money today. You just wake up and execute the math.
Let's walk through this step by step because I think it's crucial for you listening to hear it actually applied.
Let's do it.
Say I have a specific campaign, and my goal is to generate $100,000 a year in gross sales from this one initiative.
Okay, so that's step one, setting the hard income objective.
Right. So $100,000 a year, which is roughly $8,334 a month.
Okay, step two is determining your average unit of sale. When a transaction happens, how much revenue does it generate on average?
Let's say I'm selling B2B consulting services or like a mid-tier software package.
Okay.
My average unit of sale is $5,000.
So the math there is just simple division.
Right.
To make 100 grand with a product that costs 5 grand, you need exactly 20 closed sales this year. That is your baseline target.
Which, I mean, that doesn't sound very intimidating. 20 sales in 12 months. That's less than 2 sales a month. I feel like I could just stumble into 2 sales a month.
And that is exactly the trap.
Okay.
Because to get those 20 sales, you have to talk to a much larger pool of people. This brings us to step 3.
The conversion rate.
Yes. Applying your conversion rate. Out of all the people who raise their hand, identify themselves as a lead, and express interest.
The people who say they want to talk.
Right. How many actually end up signing a contract and paying you?
Now, if I'm selling a $5,000 package, people aren't just, clicking a buy now button impulsively.
Exactly. There is a sales process.
So what is a realistic conversion rate in the real world for something like that?
Well, it varies wildly by industry, the skill of the sales team, the quality of the leads, but a safe conservative estimate when you're planning a new campaign is often between 10% and 25%.
Okay.
The general rule of thumb is that the higher the price point and the more complex the decision, the lower the conversion rate will be.
So let's be cautious. Let's use a 10% conversion rate.
Good idea.
If I only close 10% of the leads I speak with, I have to multiply my required sales by 10.
Right.
So I need 20 sales times 10. That means I need 200 qualified leads this year to hit my $100,000 goal.
Correct. You need 200 people to raise their hands and say, I'm interested, tell me more.
200 people. Okay.
But we aren't done because now we have to figure out the effort required to get those 200 people to raise their hands. That is step 4.
The prospecting rate.
The prospecting rate.
Which means how many marketing pieces or cold emails or direct mail letters do I actually need to send out to generate a single lead?
Exactly. Let's assume you're using highly targeted direct mail for this campaign. A standard, realistic response rate for a well-crafted B2B direct mail piece to a cold but targeted list.
Might be what?
Might be about 2%.
Wait, 2%.
2%?
That means 98% of the people I spend money mailing are going to ignore me, throw it in the trash, or just say no. That sounds like a terrible failure rate.
I mean, it sounds terrible if you view it emotionally.
Yeah, it hurts my feelings.
Right, but if you view it mathematically, a 2% response rate is often highly profitable.
Good.
Remember, we are not trying to win a popularity contest here. We are trying to acquire customers at a cost lower than the profit they bring in.
Okay, that makes sense.
If a 2% response gives you a positive return on investment, then the 98% who threw it away are just the necessary friction of the system.
Okay, so let's run that math.
Yeah, okay.
If I have a 2% response rate, that means for every 100 letters I send, 2 people respond and become leads.
Yep.
Simplifying that, it takes 50 letters to generate 1 lead.
And this gives us our final calculation. You need 200 leads for the year.
Right.
It takes 50 letters to get 1 lead. So 200 multiplied by 50 equals 10,000.
Wow.
You need to put 10,000 promotional pieces into the mail over the course of the year.
10,000. Divide that by 12 months, and it's roughly 834 pieces a month.
Exactly.
Or about 200 a week.
And there is your blueprint. The anxiety is completely gone.
It's just a to-do list now.
Yes.
Okay.
You no longer have to worry about how to make $100,000. Your only concern, your absolute only operational mandate is ensuring that 200 highly targeted letters go out the door every single week without fail.
If the letters go out, the math dictates the revenue will follow.
Exactly.
Kind of like if I'm driving from New York to California, I don't just start the car, drive west, and hope I magically hit Los Angeles.
That would be insane.
Right. I look at a map, I calculate the total mileage, I figure out my car's miles per gallon, and I determine exactly how many fuel stops I need to make and where they need to be to ensure I don't get stranded in the desert.
It's just fuel math.
Yeah.
You are calculating the fuel required to reach the destination.
But so many business owners treat their revenue with way less precision than a road trip.
They really do.
They just hit the gas and hope they don't run out of money before they find a customer. So the practical takeaway here, for anyone listening, is to stop everything, take a single sheet of paper, and calculate your monthly prospecting volume.
Yes, do it today.
Write down your income goal.
Yeah.
Divide it by your average sale to get your target number of customers.
Perfect.
Then divide that by your estimated conversion rate to get your lead target.
Yep.
Then multiply that by your prospecting rate to get your volume. Knowing you just have to reach a specific number of people this week completely shifts the mindset from selling to just simply executing the process.
It does. It's incredibly freeing.
There's a but.
There's a big but. It relies on one massive assumption.
That the 2% response rate is real.
Exactly. The math works beautifully on paper, but it hinges entirely on your ability to actually engineer that response rate in the real world.
Right.
Because if you just mail out 834 brochures that say, buy my $5,000 consulting service, you are not going to get a 2% response.
Well, I get.
You might get a 0.01% response, and the whole mathematical equation just falls apart completely.
Which brings us to the core challenge.
Yeah.
How do you actually get a busy, distracted prospect to raise your hand?
Right.
If I can't just ask them to buy, what do I say? The material we're diving into is very clear on this. The most reliable, scalable way to generate a massive volume of leads is not by pitching your product.
Never.
But through something called a soft offer.
Right. So let's define what an offer is first.
Good call.
An offer is the specific proposition you are making to the prospect. It is what they get when they respond to your marketing, combined with what they have to do or give up to get it.
Okay, so a soft offer is low friction.
Yes.
You're essentially asking for permission to sell them something valuable, usually for free. You aren't asking for a meeting, you aren't asking for money, and you definitely aren't sending a salesperson to their office.
Exactly. The most basic kind of legacy version of this is call this number for our free brochure.
Right. We've all seen that.
And that functions as a soft offer. It requires very little commitment. But a brochure is, at its core, a sales pitch printed on glossy paper.
Yeah, it's all about the company, the product, the features.
And prospects don't wake up in the morning wishing they had more brochures to read.
Nobody does.
They wake up worrying about problems they need to solve.
So instead of a brochure, the strategy is to offer free, highly relevant information, like a booklet, a special report, a digital download, a white paper.
Anything that solves a micro problem for them.
Right.
Think about the psychology of the buyer here.
Right.
If you're a plant manager
Right.
and you are struggling with just soaring overhead costs,
Right.
what are you going to respond to? A mailer that says, send for a brochure about our new industrial HVAC systems.
Probably not.
Or a mailer that offers a free 20-page educational report titled 6 Proven Ways to Cut Energy Costs in Your Manufacturing Plant This Quarter.
Oh, I'm taking the report every single time because it promises a solution to the problem that is currently keeping me awake at night. The report offers me inherent value, regardless of whether I ever actually buy an HVAC system from you.
And that is the absolute secret of the soft offer. It provides independent value. The response rates for educational, problem-solving information are exponentially higher than response rates for just product literature.
There's an example in the source material regarding IBM that I think perfectly illustrates the genius of this.
Oh, this software book, yes.
Yes. Years ago, IBM was aggressively pushing into the business software market. They wanted to generate leads for their sales team.
Right.
Instead of running ads that just shouted, buy IBM software, it's the best, they took a completely different angle. They ran promotions offering a free, comprehensive book called Choosing Business Software.
It's so smart. Let's analyze what happens when a company like IBM does that. First, look at the targeting filter they just created out of thin air.
Right.
Who is going to take the time to request and then actually read a book on choosing business software.
Only someone who is actively in the market to buy business software.
Precisely.
Like if I'm not looking to upgrade my systems, I am not reading that book. It's a perfect self-qualifying mechanism.
Exactly. So immediately, IBM is generating this massive list of highly qualified, intent-driven leads.
Yeah.
Second, consider the positioning. By authoring the definitive guide on the subject, IBM instantly positions itself not as a vendor peddling a product, but as the credible, objective authority on the entire industry.
They literally wrote the book on it.
Exactly. When a prospect reads that book, they are inherently trusting IBM's expertise.
But the real masterstroke is what happens inside the book.
Oh, yeah.
Because it wasn't just a generic guide. Inside this so-called objective educational book, IBM provided comparison checklists, evaluation frameworks, and specific buying criteria.
Yep.
They told the reader exactly what features were essential for a robust software system. And surprise, surprise, the highly specific criteria they taught the reader to look for just happened to perfectly mirror the exact feature set of IBM's own software products.
It is brilliant disguised positioning.
It's incredible.
They are educating the prospect, providing real value, but in the process, they are basically engineering the prospect's buying criteria.
It's almost unfair. By the time the prospect finishes the book and goes out to the market to evaluate different vendors, IBM has already rigged the game.
They have set the rules.
Right. The prospect is using a scorecard that IBM designed. When they look at competitors, the competitors fall short. When they look at IBM, the product magically checks every single box that IBM just convinced them were non-negotiable.
And this strategy is timeless because it is rooted so deeply in human psychology. We trust educators. We resist salespeople.
Always.
While the IBM example involved a physical book, the exact same principle applies today. You see SaaS companies doing this constantly.
No, Tom.
They offer free webinars, extensive white papers, interactive ROI calculators.
Let's talk about those interactive formats.
Yeah.
Because the material mentions CD-ROMs, which obviously dates the specific example a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But the psychology of interactive media is more relevant today than ever.
The format evolves, right? But the underlying mechanism remains completely identical. Whether it was a CD-ROM in the 90s, or a dynamic web application, a digital template, an interactive audit tool today, you are offering what we call a bait piece.
A bait piece, okay.
Interactive tools are particularly powerful because they combine text, video, data input, and immediate personalized feedback.
Like a quiz or a calculator.
Exactly. They engage the prospect deeply, holding their attention for extended periods without a salesperson ever having to be present.
Okay, I hear all of this, and it makes total sense in theory. But I have a major concern, and I know anyone listening who has tried to run a marketing campaign recently is thinking the exact same thing.
What's that?
Everyone is drowning in content.
Oh, for sure.
Our inboxes are overflowing. We have hundreds of unread emails. We have stacks of mail on our desk. People are incredibly busy and overwhelmed.
True.
Why would giving a prospect more things to read actually work? Aren't they just going to ignore another PDF or another white paper?
It's a completely valid fear. But it stems from a misunderstanding of how human attention is actually allocated.
Really?
Yes. We are all suffering from information overload. We all have immense inertia when it comes to consuming new content. But here is the golden rule. Relevance overcomes inertia.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning that a prospect might ignore 99% of the generic marketing noise they encounter.
Sure.
But if that prospect has a burning immediate problem, let's say their company is facing a massive unexpected tax audit and they are panicking about penalties.
Oh man, nightmare scenario.
Right. And you put an offer in front of them for a free urgent report titled How to Survive a Corporate Tax Audit Without Paying Devastating Penalties. They will find the time to read it.
Because the urgency of their specific pain pierces through all the general clutter of their inbox.
Exactly. It's not about the volume of information you are offering. It's about the precision of its relevance to their current pain point.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And here is another secret about the soft offer. Even if they request the report and never actually read it, which happens frequently, by the way, the offer has still achieved its primary strategic goal.
Which is just getting them to identify themselves.
Right. They raised their hand, they gave you their contact information, and they explicitly told you, I am currently worried about tax audits.
Wow.
You now have a qualified lead in your database, and you can begin a targeted, personalized follow-up process.
Okay, let's look at the flip side of this problem. What if this strategy works too well?
Too many leads.
Yeah. What if I craft this incredibly compelling free report, I put it out there, and suddenly I get thousands of leads? The floodgates open.
That sounds like a good problem.
But when my sales team starts calling them, they realize that 80% of these leads are just freebie seekers.
Ah, yes.
People who love downloading free resources but have zero budget, zero authority, and literally no intention of ever buying my service.
Yeah.
My sales team is going to rebel.
This is a classic tension in lead generation. And it brings us to the concept of the quality versus quantity dial.
Good dial.
Yeah, when you design an offer, you are always performing this balancing act. If your goal is maximum quantity, you just want as many names in your database as humanly possible. You turn the dial all the way to easy.
Okay.
You make the offer completely free, you require only an email address to get it, and you remove any hint of obligation.
Which guarantees high volume but lower average quality.
Exactly. But if your sales team is drowning in unqualified leads and complaining that they're wasting their time on tire kickers, you need to turn the dial toward quality. You have to intentionally introduce friction into the process.
The source material provides some brilliant ways to throttle that dial.
It does.
One method is simply to charge a nominal fee for the information. If you're offering a comprehensive industry report, charge $2 for it. Or charge for the shipping and handling of a physical copy.
And it sounds counterintuitive, right? Because marketers are usually obsessed with making things as frictionless as possible.
Right. Remove all barriers.
Exactly. But charging even a trivial amount like $2 fundamentally changes the dynamic. A freebie seeker will not pull out their credit card for $2.
They just won't do it.
No. But a serious business person with a real problem won't hesitate. You instantly eliminate the bottom tier of unqualified leads.
Another way to add friction is through the data you require.
Yes, surveys.
Right. Instead of just asking for a name and email, make them work for the free report. Make them fill out a detailed, multi-step survey, ask them about their current vendors, the size of their budget, their timeline for purchasing, and, their biggest operational challenges.
Psychology there is twofold. First, the more hoops they have to jump through, the fewer leads you will generate.
Naturally.
But the ones who do jump through those hoops are demonstrating high intent. They're highly qualified, serious buyers.
And the second reason.
Second, you're gathering invaluable intelligence that your sales team can use to customize their follow-up approach. It's a gold mine.
You can also dial back the accessibility. Remove toll-free phone numbers. Make them pay the postage on a return envelope. Make them fax a request on official company letterhead.
Right. You are designing a filter, protecting your most valuable asset, which is your sales team's time. You only want the prospects who truly need your solution to make it through that gauntlet.
So the overarching strategy for generating leads at scale is to create a bait piece. Stop asking prospects to look at your brochure or buy your product in the first interaction.
Exactly.
Offer them a high-value informational resource that helps them solve a micro-problem. But engineer that information so that it perfectly positions your product as the ultimate solution to their macro problem.
You've got it perfectly.
That handles the volume. But eventually, you can't just be a free library. You have a business to run.
Right, you need to make money.
At some point, you have to transition from giving away free information to actually having a conversation about money. You have to get face-to-face or on a Zoom call without scaring them off.
This is the transition from the soft offer to the hard offer, and it requires a very delicate reframing of the sales conversation.
A hard offer is when you ask for a direct personal interaction.
Yes.
The classic old-school example on a direct mail reply card is a little checkbox at the bottom that says, "Have a salesperson call."
And according to the methodology we're analyzing, that phrase, "have a salesperson call," is absolute poison to your response rates.
Why is it so toxic, though? We all know sales happen. Why pretend otherwise?
Because the word salesperson immediately triggers deeply ingrained defense mechanisms.
It's a red flag.
Massive red flag. When a prospect sees that word, they anticipate high-pressure tactics. They anticipate being manipulated.
Right.
Prospects want solutions. They want expert advice. They want help navigating a complex problem. But they fiercely resist a sales pitch. They know that if a salesperson calls, the entire agenda of that interaction will be geared towards separating them from their money rather than objectively solving their problem.
It's the first date analogy.
Oh, tell me.
If you go on a first date, sit down at the restaurant, and before the water is even poured, you ask the person to marry you, they are going to sprint out the door.
Immediately.
You're asking for a massive life-altering commitment before you have established any mutual value or trust.
Right.
But if you invite them out for coffee to discuss a shared interest, they say yes. The stakes are low, the potential value is high. A hard offer, done correctly, is essentially asking the prospect out for coffee professionally.
That analogy holds up perfectly. You have to reframe the interaction. You never offer a sales presentation. You offer wait for it, a free, no-obligation consultation with a technical
It
specialist.
sounds so much better.
Notice the distinct shift in the language. You eradicate the word sales entirely from your vocabulary.
The material offers a great list of alternative nomenclature. Instead of sending a sales representative, you send an account manager, a senior consultant, an industry specialist, or a
Yeah.
program planner. If you are selling life insurance or wealth management, you never send a salesperson. You send a financial planner.
And this is a really critical caveat here, it is not merely about printing a different title on a business card.
You can't just fake it.
No, the meeting itself must be structured to provide inherent value. If you promise a consultation but the prospect shows up and you just deliver a boilerplate sales pitch, they will feel baited and switched.
And the trust is instantly broken.
Exactly. The meeting must be designed so that the prospect walks away having gained something genuinely useful, even if they never spend a dime with your company.
Break that down for me. Give me a concrete example of how a sales meeting has independent value.
Let's say you own a commercial B2B printing company.
Okay.
Your target market is mid-sized businesses that print a lot of catalogs, training manuals, and direct mail. Instead of calling them up and asking for a meeting to, pitch our printing services, you offer a free print audit.
Okay, what happens in a print audit?
Your print production specialist goes into the prospect's office. They sit down and review all the materials the prospect currently prints.
Thoroughly.
Yes. They analyze the paper weights being used, the color processes, the mailing costs, the wastage, and at the end of the audit, they provide a report.
Okay.
They say, if you switch this catalog from 80-pound gloss to 70-pound matte and consolidate your mailing list processing, you can cut your annual print spend by 15% without sacrificing quality.
Wow.
And then they leave a price quotation for how your company would handle it.
So even if the prospect decides to just stay with their current printing vendor, that meeting was incredibly valuable to them.
Exactly. They now have a highly professional benchmark to keep their current printer honest. They learn practical production tips that will literally save them money. The meeting had independent value.
But psychologically,
Psychologically, you have just demonstrated immense expertise. You have proven that you care about their bottom line, and you have invoked the law of reciprocity. You earn the right to ask for their business by delivering value first.
that makes total sense.
Right.
It completely changes the dynamic from adversarial to collaborative.
Exactly.
Now, another powerful tool in the hard offer arsenal is the concept of credible scarcity. We're all bombarded with fake urgency, right?
Mm-hmm.
The countdown timers on websites, the limited time offers that never actually expire.
I hate those.
But the text emphasizes the word credible.
Fake scarcity is not only ineffective, it is actively insulting to your prospect's intelligence.
It really is.
If you are offering a downloadable PDF report and you say, hurry, we only printed 1,000 digital copies, the prospect knows you are lying.
Right, it's digital.
They know you can just hit copy-paste infinitely. It destroys your credibility. But credible scarcity is one of the most powerful motivators in human psychology. It forces immediate action.
The book shares an amazing case study of a software company that sold a highly complex program for building custom databases.
Oh, this is a great one.
The software was expensive and the sales cycle was long. To prove how fast and powerful their software was, they decided to offer free, custom prototyping for potential clients.
Just huge.
Basically, give us your specs and we will build a working model of your database for free.
That is an incredibly strong, high-value offer. But how did they frame the scarcity?
This is the brilliant part. In their marketing letter, they explicitly stated, because this prototyping process requires the direct involvement of our senior engineers, we can only handle a very limited number of prototypes at any one time.
Brilliant.
We are offering this to a select group of companies. If you do not respond quickly, you will be put on a waiting list, and it may be months before we can accommodate you.
See, what makes that so effective is that the scarcity is rooted in undeniable physical reality. Engineering bandwidth is a genuinely finite resource.
Everyone knows that.
A prospect understands that a company only has so many senior engineers. It is highly believable, and therefore it creates a genuine rush. It prevents the prospect from putting the letter in their to-do later pile, which is where marketing goes to die.
And speaking of motivating prospects to act, we have to talk about premiums and trials, the psychology of the gift.
Oh, yes.
A premium is simply a free gift you give a prospect in exchange for them responding to your offer.
But we have to make a very sharp distinction here between generating direct sales and generating B2B leads.
Oh, that's the difference.
In the world of pure consumer mail order sales, where the goal is an immediate impulse purchase, the premium doesn't necessarily have to be logically related to the product. It just needs to have high perceived value to the consumer.
Like getting a free set of steak knives when you buy a magazine subscription.
Right.
The knives have nothing to do with reading, but people want them.
Precisely. But in B2B lead generation, if you offer a completely unrelated premium, say, you offer a free flat screen TV or a set of Callaway golf clubs to anyone who agrees to a software demo. Oh no.
You are going to get absolutely flooded with unqualified leads. You will get every sweepstakes hunter, every low-level manager, and every freebie seeker begging for a demo with absolutely zero intention of ever buying your software.
You have ruined your quality dial.
Completely destroyed it.
So the premium must be intrinsically linked to the value of your core product. You want a premium that is highly desirable, but only desirable to someone who is actually a qualified prospect for what you sell.
The material uses an excellent example of a publisher selling expensive, highly technical CD-ROM databases to corporate libraries and research departments.
Okay.
As their premium, they didn't offer a TV. They offered a free CD-ROM stacker and reader to anyone who bought a subscription.
Which has a high perceived financial value, making it a great gift. But if you aren't a company that needs to process large amounts of technical CD-ROM data, a stacker is completely useless to you. Exactly. It magnetically attracts the right kind of buyer, and it actively repels the sweepstakes hunters. Plus, it makes the buyer look like a smart, frugal purchaser in the eyes of their own company because they acquired a piece of hardware for free.
Win-win.
Now, a variation of the premium is the free trial, and the specific framing of a trial offer can drastically alter how human beings respond to it.
This brings up the MCI long-distance example, which I think is one of the most profound psychological insights in this entire deep dive.
I love this one.
MCI, back in the day of long-distance phone wars, ran a split test on 2 different promotional ads. The first ad offered a straightforward financial discount, $5 off your long-distance phone bill.
Okay, standard offer.
The second ad offered a time-based trial, 30 free minutes of long-distance calls.
And the result of that split test, the offer for 30 free minutes pulled roughly twice the response rate of the $5 discount.
Which is wild because if you actually do the math, depending on the rates at the time, 30 minutes of long distance might have only been worth $3 or $4. Right. Mathematically, the $5 cash offer was objectively the better deal. Why does the human brain act so irrationally? Why do we prefer the minutes over the cash?
It comes down to perceived value and the emotional experience of a trial. $5 feels like a tiny, insignificant discount. It feels cheap. It commoditizes the service.
It's just a couple bucks.
But 30 minutes of free talk time feels like a substantial, tangible experience. It feels like a true free trial of the service itself. You can picture yourself talking to your family across the country for half an hour.
It's visual.
It allows the user to sample the core value of the product without feeling any financial risk. A discount just lowers the price. A trial offers an experience.
So the practical takeaway for this section, you need to audit your entire marketing presence.
Yes, thoroughly.
Look at your website, your brochures, your email signatures, the scripts your sales reps use. Hunt down and eradicate phrases like sales call, pitch, presentation, or quote.
Get rid of them.
Replace them with titles that convey expertise, like industry specialist or account manager. Frame your hard offers as a free consultation, a strategy session, or an audit. Reframe the interaction so that it is perceived by the prospect as a highly valuable event, not a high-pressure trap.
All right, let's take inventory here. We have our targeting and our blueprint math locked in. We know how to use soft offers to generate high volume, and we know how to use reframed hard offers and credible scarcity to transition to a valuable meeting.
We're almost there.
The final piece of this puzzle is the delivery mechanism. What is the most surgical, effective way to deliver these meticulously crafted offers to the exact right people?
Which brings us to the mechanics of direct mail and the psychological motivating sequence.
Yes.
Now, I can hear the collective groan from some listeners. Direct mail, physical letters, in the digital age, isn't that dead?
People always ask that.
But the source material, and frankly data from top-tier modern marketers, insists that direct mail remains one of the most highly targeted, controllable, and shockingly effective mediums for generating high-quality B2B leads.
It is the ultimate controllable medium because it forces you to be precise. You can't just throw a tweet into the void and hope.
No.
It forces you to understand the psychology of the reader. And that entire process begins before you write a single word of copy. It begins with the list.
Because if you send a brilliant letter to the wrong person, it's still garbage.
Precisely. The text categorizes mailing lists into a strict hierarchy of responsiveness. At the absolute top of the pyramid is your house list.
Okay, who's on that?
These are your past inquiries, your past customers, your lapsed clients, and your current active clients. These people already have a relationship with you. They recognize your name. They trust you.
It's a warm list.
Yes, a house list will always mathematically outperform any other list you can find.
Below that, you have rented lists, where you might pay a broker to access the subscriber base of an industry trade magazine.
Right.
You know they are in the right industry, but they don't know you. And at the very bottom are compiled lists, which is basically just scraping names from a directory or a database.
The absolute coldest.
They're the least responsive and require the strongest possible offer to get a bite. But let's assume we have sourced a highly targeted list. I have a very intuitive question here about the physical format.
Here.
In a world of flashy, glossy, incredibly expensive corporate brochures, what physical format actually gets a busy executive to stop and respond?
It is completely counterintuitive. The truth revealed in the text and proven over decades of split testing is that a simple, typewritten 1- or 2-page letter formatted to look like personal correspondence is almost always the most effective format for lead generation.
Wait, really? A plain black and white letter on standard paper beats a beautiful full-color die-cut brochure that costs $10 to print. Why?
It comes down to cognitive load and the specific goal of lead generation. A beautiful, comprehensive brochure is designed to answer every possible question.
Right. They pack everything in there.
Exactly. It gives away every detail, every specification, every feature, and every price point. When you hand that to a prospect, you satisfy their curiosity completely.
And if their curiosity is satisfied, they have absolutely no reason to call me.
Exactly. They look at it, think, that's nice, and throw it right in the trash. A letterer, on the other hand, is intimate. It feels personal, even if it's mass-produced.
It feels like a real message from a real person.
More importantly, a letter can be strategically designed to provide just enough information to arouse intense curiosity and generate interest without giving away the farm. You are intentionally creating an information gap. The only way the prospect can close that gap is by raising their hand, calling you, or requesting the soft offer to get the rest of the story.
You leave them wanting more. But writing that letter isn't just about throwing a few words on a page and hoping it sounds good. The text outlines a highly specific, psychologically proven formula called the 5-step motivating sequence. This is the engine of the entire campaign. Let's break these 5 steps down because they apply to emails and landing pages just as much as physical letters.
Let's do it. Step 1 is obvious but crucial. Get attention.
Okay.
You have a fraction of a second when they open the envelope or click the email. You must promise a massive benefit, ask a deeply provocative question, or offer a tangible reward right in the headline or the very first sentence.
You can't start with, "Dear sir, our company was founded in 1995.
No.
You have to start with something like, "Now you can reduce your corporate telephone bill by 50% or more." Boom, you have my attention.
Which leads immediately into step 2, identify the problem or need. And this is where most amateur marketers fail completely.
The text makes a brilliant, subtle point here. Why do you have to identify the problem if the prospect already has it?
Right.
If I sell cybersecurity, the prospect already knows hackers exist. Why do I need to waste space talking about the problem?
Because of the psychology of present bias and cognitive dissonance, the prospect might have the problem, but they are almost certainly not thinking about that specific problem at the exact moment they open your envelope.
They're thinking about other stuff.
They're thinking about their lunch or their next meeting or a fight they had with their spouse.
So you have to jolt them out of their current reality?
You must agitate the problem. You must forcefully bring the pain to the absolute forefront of their conscious mind before you can even hint at your solution.
Give me an example.
If you sell network security, you cannot just start listing your firewall features. You have to start by saying, Are you aware that 60% of small businesses in your specific sector will face a catastrophic business-ending data breach this year, and that standard insurance doesn't cover the ransomware payouts?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that stings.
You force them to visualize the disaster, you make them feel the anxiety.
If you skip step 2, your brilliant solution will fall on completely deaf ears. Human beings ignore solutions to problems they aren't actively feeling. Okay, so we have their attention and we've agitated the pain. Step 3, position your product or service as the solution. Now that they are feeling the heat of the problem, you clearly and logically bridge the gap.
Yep.
You show them exactly how your specific offering eliminates the exact pain you just agitated.
And you must be specific. Generalities destroy trust. Which brings us to step 4. Prove your case. It is not enough to simply make a grand claim that you can solve their problem. You have to back it up with undeniable proof.
But in a short one-page letter, how do you prove it?
You do it efficiently. You use a powerful one-sentence testimonial from a highly satisfied client in a similar industry.
Okay.
You drop a list of prominent, recognizable companies you have successfully worked with, or you highlight very specific, quantifiable data points and risk reversal guarantees. You are satisfying the logical part of their brain that is looking for a reason to doubt you.
And finally, step 5, the call to action. You have to tell them exactly what to do next. Do they mail back a reply card? Do they call a toll-free number? Do they scan a QR code to visit a landing page?
Right.
You must tell them exactly how to do it, what they will get when they do it, and critically why they must do it now, which loops right back into the credible scarcity and the soft hard offers we discussed earlier.
And we shouldn't overlook the physical envelope itself if we are talking about direct mail. The text touches on the outer envelope, which is the prerequisite to the entire 5-step sequence.
Right, because if they throw it in the trash unopened, your brilliant 5-step psychological masterpiece is completely worthless.
The physical psychology of the envelope is fascinating. Sometimes the most effective approach is the sneak-up method.
The sneak-up method.
Yeah, you use a completely plain white envelope with a real stamp and just a return address with no company logo. It looks like personal correspondence.
Geeky.
The prospect's gatekeeper won't throw it away, and the prospect will open it out of sheer curiosity.
And the other approach is the teaser copy. You print something massive and compelling on the outside of the envelope, like inside. The definitive secret to cutting your raw material shipping costs in half. You are treating the envelope itself as a billboard to earn the right to be opened.
So the practical takeaway for this part is a checklist. Before you send your next marketing email, your next LinkedIn outreach, or your next physical mailer, run it ruthlessly through the 5-step motivating sequence.
1, does it immediately grab attention?
Yes.
2, does it identify and deeply agitate a specific problem?
3, does it position your solution clearly?
4, does it prove your claims with evidence?
And 5, does it have a crystal clear, urgent call to action?
If you are missing any of those steps, especially the agitation of the problem in step 2, tear it up and rewrite it.
I agree completely.
When you pull all of these concepts together, a very clear, very powerful picture emerges. A masterfully planned lead generation campaign is not an art project. It relies on creativity, sure, but fundamentally, it is an engineered system.
It is the precise alignment of several distinct disciplines. It is the cold, calculated math of your required prospecting volume, combined with psychologically framed offers that provide inherent value, delivered flawlessly through a sequenced medium that respects how human beings process information and make decisions.
You're no longer guessing.
Right. You are calculating your fuel requirements, you are baiting the hook with high-value free education, you are reframing the intimidating sales pitch into a valuable consultation, and you are delivering that message surgically.
I think the soul of this entire chapter, the one overarching insight to take away, is that generating leads at a massive scale requires you to shift your focus entirely away from what you want to sell.
Completely away from it.
You have to stop looking at your own quotas and your own products and place your focus squarely onto what the prospect wants to learn and needs to solve. When you stop pitching and start educating, when you start demanding and start offering true independent value, the leads will follow naturally.
It is a complete paradigm shift. Once you stop trying to wrestle people into buying and instead give them the tools to understand their own problems more clearly, you naturally become the trusted authority.
And people prefer to do business with trusted authority.
Absolutely.
It changes everything about how you operate. But of course, it creates a brand new problem. Now that you have the blueprint, to make hundreds of qualified prospects raise their hands, the real challenge begins.
Oh, yes.
What exactly do you do when those floodgates finally open? How do you process that volume, and how do you separate the red-hot buyers who are ready to sign a contract today from the tire kickers who just wanted your free TDF?
It's a whole other beast.
But navigating that specific chaos, well, that is a deep dive for another time. What if I told you that businesses waste, literally millions of dollars every single year on these stunning, beautifully written marketing campaigns that just fail completely?
Well, it is a staggering amount of capital poured straight down the drain.
Right, all because they forgot to give you a single compelling reason to actually reply.
You see these gorgeous, glossy campaigns, with brilliant copywriting and incredible graphic design.
Perfect market placement.
Exactly, perfect placement, and they just sit there, dead on arrival.
And it happens across, every single industry. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, we have a very specific mission for you.
We really do.
We are taking a magnifying glass to Chapter 3 of Robert W.Bly's seminal work, The Lead Generation Handbook. Specifically, we're focusing on pages 65 to 116, which cover the science behind offers that increase response rates.
It's such a crucial section of the book.
It really is. Our goal for you today is simple. We want to deconstruct exactly how to trade value for attention.
Because that's what it is, a trade.
Yeah. If you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or frankly, just anyone who needs to persuade a stranger to raise their hand and say, hey, tell me more. Mastering the psychology of the offer is the ultimate shortcut.
It really is the master key.
And we aren't just talking about, tweaking a few words at the bottom of an ad. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how you engineer the relationship between you and your potential customer, literally from the very first touch point.
That framing is crucial because most businesses treat marketing like a megaphone.
Right.
They just shout their features into the void and kind of hope someone is listening.
Just blasting it out there.
Exactly. But what Bly's research demonstrates is that effective lead generation is actually an exercise in behavioral economics.
Okay, behavioral economics.
Yeah, you are engineering a microtransaction. Before someone ever buys your product, they have to buy the idea of paying attention to you.
Oh, that's good.
And you facilitate that transaction through the offer.
Let's lay the foundation, then, by looking at the anatomy of an offer. Because I think there is a massive misconception right out of the gate here.
Oh, absolutely.
When most people hear the word offer, they immediately think of the product itself. They think, my offer is this enterprise software platform, or my offer is my corporate consulting package.
Right. And that is the foundational error that derails most campaigns.
It is.
Yeah. The offer is absolutely not your software or your consulting service or your widgets.
What is it?
The offer is the specific terms of engagement at that exact moment in time.
Oh, okay.
It is exactly what the prospect gets combined with what they have to do to get it.
So it's the immediate exchange.
Exactly. Like if you run a full-page advertisement, the offer isn't the million-dollar supply chain logistics system you ultimately want to sell them.
Right.
The offer is, give me your email address and 5 minutes of your time, and I will give you a white paper on supply chain bottlenecks. That is the transaction happen in that moment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the offer is just the immediate transaction, then, every time we ask a prospect to do something, click a link, fill out a form, pick up a phone, we are introducing friction and perceived risk.
Precisely the point. And Bly lays down a golden rule here.
Which is?
The rule of thumb is simple. The more valuable and risk-free the immediate offer feels to the prospect, the higher your response rate will be.
That makes intuitive sense.
Right, because human beings are naturally risk-averse, especially in B2B environments where, their professional reputation is literally on the line.
Nobody wants to look stupid in front of their boss.
Exactly. So your job is to balance the friction of your request with immense, obvious, upfront value.
And to help marketers structure this, Bly categorizes offers into 4 distinct types.
4 types, yeah.
He breaks them down into soft, hard, negative, and deferred.
Right.
I found the distinction between the first 2, the soft offer and the hard offer, to be the most practical starting point for anyone auditing their current marketing.
It's a great place to start.
So a soft offer is essentially a request for some kind of printed or digital information. It's a brochure, a catalog, a white paper, or a video link.
Yeah, low stakes.
Exactly.
Right.
The defining characteristic is that there is zero personal contact required.
Right.
You check a box, you mail a card, you visit a landing page, and you get the thing without ever having to talk to a human being.
It is the most painless, risk-free way for a prospect to signal interest.
Totally.
They are saying, hey, I have a problem and I'm gathering data, but they aren't subjected to any sales pressure.
Now contrast that with the hard offer. This is where you are asking for a face-to-face meeting, a phone consultation, or like a live software demonstration.
Right, where they're on the hook.
Yeah, it's a scenario where the prospect is going to be essentially captive to a sales pitch.
Right.
And reading through the text, I couldn't help but map this onto the psychology of dating.
Oh, I like where this is going. How does that map out?
Well, think about the level of commitment.
Okay.
The soft offer is like asking someone you just met to grab a quick 15-minute cup of coffee.
Right, very casual.
It's incredibly low stakes. If the conversation is terrible or you realize there's no connection, you finish your latte, you say it was nice to meet them, and you leave.
No harm, no foul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You maintain your autonomy. But the hard offer,
Yeah.
that's asking someone you just met to come over for a 4-hour Sunday dinner to meet your parents.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is a massive leap in social and emotional commitment.
It is. You're asking for their undivided attention, their time, and you are introducing a huge amount of social pressure.
Totally.
If they were just at the, gathering information stage of the relationship, and your marketing only gives them the meet the parents option, meaning like call our sales team for a demo, they are going to run away.
And this is a trap that highly sophisticated B2B marketers fall into constantly.
Really? Even the pros?
Oh, absolutely. There is a prevalent bias in enterprise sales where leadership just hates soft offers.
Well, how is that?
You hear this all the time in boardroom meetings. They'll say, well, if this person isn't willing to get on the phone with an account executive, they aren't a real lead.
Ah, I've heard that.
I don't want to waste marketing budget sending white papers to tire kickers.
Right, the tire kickers argument.
Exactly. But Bly's data points out that this is a fatal miscalculation of the buyer's journey.
How so?
By demanding that high level of commitment way too early, you are actively scaring away a massive pool of future buyers who are highly qualified, but simply in the early diagnostic phase of their problem.
You are demanding marriage on the first date.
Precisely.
So, providing a mix of soft and hard offers makes intuitive sense.
It does.
But Bly introduces this third type called the negative offer. And I have to admit, I read this section 3 times and I still want to push back on it.
Okay, let's hear it.
A negative offer, according to the text, is a literal checkbox on a reply card or a form that says, not interested right now because, followed by a blank line. Why on earth would a business spend their hard-earned marketing budget paying for postage, printing, digital ad spend to give someone a frictionless physical mechanism to reject them?
Well, what's fascinating here is that you have to view the negative offer not as a sales tool, but as a deeply sophisticated diagnostic instrument.
A diagnostic instrument.
It is a built-in testing mechanism for market alignment.
Interesting.
Imagine you launch a direct mail campaign for a brand new sauce product. You send out 10,000 pieces.
Okay, 10,000.
The response rate is near 0, just crickets.
Ouch.
Right. Without that negative checkbox, you are operating in a vacuum. You have 0 signal.
You have no idea what went wrong.
Exactly. Was the copywriting weak? Was the value proposition unclear?
Did you buy a terrible mailing list?
Right. Or does the market just genuinely not want what you built?
You're flying blind, so you don't know what variable to fix for the next campaign.
Completely blind. But if you include that negative offer box, you are lowering the barrier for the prospect to give you actionable market intelligence.
Oh, I see.
They will actually take the time to tell you why they're rejecting you.
Like what?
They'll write, your pricing model doesn't fit our budget cycle. Or, we're locked into a 3-year contract with your competitor. Or, we need HIPAA compliance and you didn't mention it.
Wow.
Suddenly, you aren't guessing anymore. You have raw qualitative data straight from the market.
I see the mechanics of that, but doesn't it run into the issue of cognitive effort?
What do you mean?
Most people won't even take the time to fill out a positive form to get something they actually want.
True.
Why would they expend the cognitive effort to write out a personalized rejection letter to a complete stranger?
This raises an important question about behavioral psychology, specifically the concept of effort, justification, and cognitive dissonance.
Okay, lay it on me.
If a prospect takes the time to check that box, physically write out a specific objection, and return it to you, they aren't actually a cold, dead lead.
Wait, but they literally just told you no.
They told you no for a highly specific reason.
Right.
Think about the psychological sequence that had to occur for them to write that rejection.
Okay.
They had to open your mail, read your value proposition, mentally map it against their current business problems, identify a specific point of friction, and care enough about that friction to articulate it to you.
That's a lot of mental steps.
It is. That level of engagement implies a baseline need for your solution.
Okay, I'm starting to see this.
If you have a highly skilled sales team, that negative offer just handed them the exact conversational hurdle they need to clear.
How does the sales team use that?
Let's take the HIPAA compliance example. They write, "Not interested because we require HIPAA compliance."
Okay.
If your software actually is HIPAA compliant, but your marketing team just forgot to feature it in the ad.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. Your salesperson can call them up and say, "Hey, I received your note and I really appreciate you taking the time to reply. I wanted to personally reach out because we actually just finalized our HIPAA certification."
Oh, that is brilliant.
You've completely bypassed the cold call defense mechanisms because you are responding directly to their stated need.
You've turned a rejection into a perfectly teed up, highly contextual sales conversation.
Exactly.
I could totally see why Bly advocates for it, even if it feels super counterintuitive at first.
It takes some guts to use it, but it works.
And that flows logically into the fourth type, the deferred offer.
Yes, the deferred offer.
This is a box that says something to the effect of, "We aren't in the market right now. Try us again in, blank month."
Exactly. It captures the prospects who have a real validated need, but lack immediate budget, authority, or timeline.
Right.
If you only offer them a hard offer demo or a soft offer white paper, they might ignore both.
Because they know they can't buy it.
Right. They don't want a salesperson actively working them when they know they literally can't buy for another 6 months.
Makes sense.
The deferred offer gives them a safe, professional way to say, "I am your ideal customer, just not today." It is pure pipeline management.
The overarching takeaway for you listening is crystal clear here. Never force your prospect into a binary buy or don't buy corner.
Never.
If you want to capture the maximum return on your marketing investment, always provide a primary offer, like your hard offer consultation, and secondary options, like a soft offer brochure or a deferred offer box.
Right. You have to meet the buyer at their specific stage of psychological readiness.
By doing so, you cast a much wider net, capturing the immediate buyers while simultaneously building a robust pipeline of future buyers.
All without cheapening the core product.
Exactly. Which provides a perfect thematic bridge to our next major area of focus.
Let's do it.
So we've established that offering a low-stakes coffee date, a soft offer, is critical for capturing early-stage leads.
Yes.
But as Bly points out in the text, simply offering a generic, free corporate brochure is usually a massive wasted opportunity.
It's all totally wasted.
If we want that prospect to actually show up for the coffee date, we have to offer them something substantially better than a brochure. We need what he calls a bait piece.
Right. Now, the term bait piece sounds a little cynical, almost deceptive.
It does sound like you're tricking them.
It does, but its function is actually rooted in delivering immense upfront value.
Okay.
A bait piece is a highly specific, highly valuable, free booklet, special report, or white paper. It is a genuine educational asset.
But why does this work so much better than a brochure? I mean, a beautifully designed brochure tells the prospect exactly what I'm selling, what the features are, and how great my company is.
Right.
Isn't that what they need to know to make a buying decision?
That is egocentric marketing.
Egocentric.
You're assuming the prospect wakes up in the morning caring about your company.
And they don't.
They absolutely don't. Today's business professionals are drowning in sales pitches, but they are absolutely desperate for solutions.
That's a great distinction.
We are all information seekers trying to solve our own daily headaches. Imagine a busy executive standing over their recycling bin, aggressively sorting through their daily mail.
We've all been there.
Right. A glossy brochure screaming, "Buy our new supply chain widget," goes straight into the garbage because it screams, "Here is a request for your money."
Yeah.
But a free, high-value report titled 7 Hidden Bottlenecks Costing Your Supply Chain Millions.
I'm reading that.
Exactly. That forces them to stop, slow down, and take notice because it speaks directly to their pain point.
Here's where it gets really interesting reading through the case studies in this section. I realized The bait piece is essentially a modern Trojan horse.
Oh, I love that analogy.
But instead of hiding an attacking army inside to destroy the city, it is filled with helpful industry secrets, data, and education that position you as the ultimate trusted expert.
Yes.
You are sneaking past their hardened sales defenses by leading with pure education.
The Trojan horse is the perfect analogy because it highlights the strategic subtlety required here.
Subtlety is key.
You are offering them education which they actively want, but woven into the fabric of that education is the buying criteria that naturally favors your product.
Yes. Bly gives a phenomenal historical example of this strategy executed flawlessly by IBM.
The IBM software book, this is legendary.
This blew my mind.
It is an absolute masterclass in anchoring bias.
Walk us through it.
So IBM wanted to sell a new line of business software specifically to small business owners.
Okay.
Now, they could have just mailed out thousands of generic brochures listing their software's technical features.
Which is what everyone else does.
Exactly. Instead, they published a free, full-length, highly professional paperback book titled How to Choose the Right Software for Your Business.
And the brilliant part is, they didn't explicitly use the book as a catalog to sell IBM, right?
That is the genius of the execution. The book was a genuinely helpful guide.
It actually taught them something.
Right. It walked a small business owner through exactly what features they should look for when evaluating any software platform. It taught them how to shop, how to assess their needs, and what pitfalls to avoid.
But of course, the comparison checklists, the required capabilities, and the must-have features highlighted in the book just happen to perfectly align with the exact architecture of IBM's products.
Just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Right. So they literally wrote the book on the industry standards. And naturally, their own product magically met all those stringent standards.
Exactly. Think about the cognitive psychology at play here.
Okay.
When those readers eventually went out into the marketplace to evaluate different software vendors, IBM was already firmly positioned in their minds as the credible, authoritative expert who literally wrote the book on the subject.
You can't beat the guy who wrote the book.
Furthermore, IBM had successfully anchored the buyer's criteria. When the prospect checked IBM software against the criteria they learned from the IBM book, it was a flawless match.
Because IBM designed the criteria.
His vape piece successfully engineered a set of buying criteria that heavily favored the seller, all while the buyer felt like they were just receiving free education.
There's another great example in the text from a direct mail company called Fela.
Oh, yes.
It illustrates how to execute this on a smaller scale. They created a highly targeted booklet called Should I Personalize? A direct marketer's guide to personalized direct mail.
What's vital to pull from the Fela example is the power of microspecificity.
Right, it wasn't broad.
Notice the title wasn't a broad, generic overview like How to Be Great at Direct Mail.
Which is what a lot of people would write.
Exactly. It zoomed in on one specific, persistent micro problem, the ROI of personalization.
Okay.
By narrowing the focus that tightly, you guarantee that anyone who raises their hand to request that booklet is a highly qualified lead actively wrestling with that exact technical problem.
That makes total sense.
You aren't getting generic marketers, you are getting marketers who are right on the precipice of spending money on personalization.
The practical takeaway here for anyone auditing their own campaigns is just massive. Stop offering generic corporate brochures that just stroke your own ego and list your company's history.
Nobody cares about your company history.
They really don't. Take the deep expertise your company possesses and package it into a catchy titled report that solves a hyper-specific micro-problem for your ideal prospect.
Yes.
And crucially, and Bly emphasizes this heavily in the text, never, ever put a direct, heavy-handed sales pitch inside the body of the educational booklet.
Oh, that ruins the whole thing.
Keep it purely informational, or you immediately break the fragile trust you just established.
The moment the prospect realizes the educational guide is just a disguised sales brochure, the Trojan horse falls apart.
The Greek soldiers fall out.
Right. They feel tricked, their defenses go back up, and you've lost them. The sell has to be incredibly soft, subtle, and built into the foundational logic of the information provided.
So we've established that giving away high-value information works. The psychological mechanics are sound, and Bly's math proves that bait pieces dramatically increase ad and direct mail response rates.
The numbers don't lie.
Yet if I walk into 100 B2B marketing departments today, I guarantee you 99 of them are still just sending out glossy product catalogs or running ads that just say, book a demo.
Without a doubt.
Why is there such a massive disconnect between the proven data, and the reality of how businesses market themselves.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Marketers will fight tooth and nail against mathematically proven strategies because of their own internal biases, organizational ego, or just a fundamental misunderstanding of the objective.
Yeah.
Bry spends a significant portion of this chapter addressing this exact phenomenon.
He lists 5 major objections,
He
right?
does. 5 objections he hears constantly from executives. First, they think bait pieces are too formulaic. Second, they think the tactic is overused.
Okay.
Third, they are terrified competitors will steal their intellectual property. Fourth, they believe prospects won't actually read the material. And fifth, they assume it will only attract poor quality freebie leads.
Let's tackle that 4th objection head on, because I have to admit, I found myself agreeing with it initially.
The reading objection.
Yeah. The objection is that busy executives will order your free 30-page white paper, it will arrive on their desks or in their inbox, and they will just toss it in a drawer or a folder without ever reading a single word of it.
Right.
If our entire strategy relies on educating the buyer with this Trojan horse, isn't it a catastrophic waste of money if they never actually open it?
This raises an important question about how we define the actual goal of a lead generation campaign.
Okay.
The primary goal of the bait piece isn't necessarily to get the prospect to read a 30-page manifesto on industry standards.
Wait, really? Then why write it?
The primary goal of the campaign is getting the prospect to raise their hand.
Oh.
The bait piece is merely the friction remover. It is the high-value incentive that tips the scales, convincing them to fill out the form, hand over their email address, or pick up the phone.
So it's just the catalyst.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about the psychology of the hand raise. By requesting the information, they have taken a micro-commitment. They've crossed the threshold from an anonymous, invisible suspect into a known, quantifiable prospect.
Because now you have their data.
You now have their contact information. You know they have an interest in the specific topic of your bait piece. You have the lead.
Right?
Whether they read the booklet cover to cover with a highlighter or use it as a coaster for their coffee mug is secondary.
That is wild.
You can now initiate your outbound follow-up sales process. The free booklet offer successfully converted their inaction into a measurable response.
That completely flips the perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The booklet successfully performed its primary job the exact moment they requested it.
Exactly.
But what about that final excuse, the fear of the freebie seeker? This seems like a totally valid concern.
It's the most common fear.
If you offer something highly valuable for free, aren't you just going to clog up your sales team's calendar with a flood of unqualified people who just like getting free stuff, or students doing research, or just people who have zero purchasing power?
You will absolutely get some of those. It is an unavoidable byproduct of a wide net strategy. It's the cost of doing business. But Bly details exactly how to manage this by understanding that lead generation is a delicate balance between quantity and quality.
How do you balance it?
You have to think of your offer like a friction dial on a control panel.
A friction dial.
Yeah. If your sales team is starving for leads, you turn the friction all the way down. If they are drowning in unqualified leads, you turn the friction up.
How do you artificially add friction to an offer?
You make it incrementally harder to get the bait piece.
Like charging for it.
Right. If you are doing physical mail instead of a prepaid business reply card, you make the prospect pay their own return postage. You could charge a nominal fee like $5 for the industry report.
What about digital?
If it's digital, instead of just asking for an email address, you force them to fill out a detailed 10-question survey about their current vendors, their timeline, and their budget before they can download the report.
Oh, that would definitely weed people out.
Or you can use exclusionary language in the ad itself, stating explicitly, "This technical report is strictly for enterprise CTOs. Serious inquiries only, please."
So you're building walls.
Every one of those tactics introduces a barrier. Those barriers will dramatically reduce the total volume of leads, but the prospects who do jump through those hoops will be highly qualified and highly motivated.
But Bly actually cautions against doing that for the vast majority of businesses, doesn't he?
He does, quite emphatically. For 99.9% of B2B marketers, the text strongly advises keeping the bait piece completely free and removing as much friction as humanly possible at the front door.
Even with the freebie seekers.
Yes. The prevailing logic is that you want to fill your funnel as wide as possible. It is much easier and more cost-effective to qualify and filter prospects after they raise their hand usually through an automated email sequence or a quick SDR phone call, than it is to guess who is qualified beforehand.
That makes sense.
If you put up too many friction barriers at the initial touch point, you run the massive risk of locking out incredibly lucrative prospects who just couldn't be bothered to find a stamp, write a $5 check, or fill out a tedious 10-minute survey.
It all comes back to removing the roadblocks, which is the perfect actionable takeaway for you listening. Do not let your organizational ego or the fear that your marketing might look formulaic stop you from deploying bait pieces.
Don't do it.
They are arguably the most reliable, mathematically proven tool in the history of direct response marketing. Give away your best knowledge, secure the lead, and use that friction dial strategically only if your sales team is literally complaining about having too many conversations.
Well said. Which leads us perfectly into the next massive roadblock businesses routinely put in their own way once they actually get the lead.
Yes, moving from the soft offer to repackaging the hard offer. Or, as I like to think of it, actively removing the sales stigma from your vocabulary.
It's a heavy stigma.
Bly makes a fantastic, almost comical point here. He notes that if you use the phrase, "have a salesperson call me," on your reply card or landing page, you are basically begging the prospect to throw your marketing in the trash.
It is a guaranteed, scientifically proven way to flatline your response rate.
Why is it so deadly?
Well, if we look at the cognitive psychology of the buyer, it makes perfect sense. The word salesperson is a semantic trigger for the amygdala.
The fear center of the brain.
Yes.
Oh,
It immediately initiates our deepest fight-or-flight defense mechanism.
exactly. Nobody wakes up on a Tuesday morning, looks at their calendar, and thinks, gee, I really hope I get trapped in a high-pressure adversarial sales pitch today, where someone tries to separate me from my company's budget.
No one has ever thought that. When a prospect reads the phrase, "have a salesperson call," their brain instantly translates that to, "please invite a stranger to aggressively pressure me into spending my limited resources for their financial benefit, not mine."
Wow, yeah.
By using that terminology, you are shining a massive spotlight on the pain and risk of a transaction, rather than the benefit or the solution. You absolutely must repackage the framing of that encounter.
How do you do that ethically without lying to the prospect about the nature of the meeting? Because at the end of the day, a salesperson is going to call them.
You aren't lying. You are shifting the context of the value exchange.
Okay.
You change the framing of the event and the title of the person they are meeting to reflect the consultative value they are going to receive. You aren't offering a sales presentation. You are offering a free consultation, a custom needs assessment audit, an exploratory strategy session, or a free executive briefing.
And the person.
And you don't send a sales rep. You send a technical solutions consultant, a workflow design specialist, or a senior financial advisor.
So what does this all mean in a real-world, everyday scenario? Let me use a tangible analogy outside of B2B.
Go for it.
Let's say I'm a homeowner looking to upgrade my attic insulation before the winter hits. I'm flipping through a local magazine and I see an ad.
Okay.
If the call to action says, "call now to schedule a sales visit from our regional insulation rep," I'm going to hesitate. My guard goes up. I know that guy's coming into my living room to push me into a binding contract.
Totally.
But if the exact same company runs an ad that says, "call now to schedule a free home energy efficiency audit with one of our certified climate specialists," I'm immediately dialing the number.
Right.
It might be the exact same guy, wearing the exact same polo shirt, showing up at my door, the exact same truck, but the perceived value of the encounter is entirely different.
That is a phenomenal example, and it perfectly isolates one of the most profound psychological principles Bly outlines in this entire chapter.
Which is?
For a hard offer to truly explode your response rates and break through a prospect's natural skepticism, the initial meeting must hold intrinsic value for the prospect, independent of whether they ever buy anything from you.
Wait, let me make sure I understand that. Intrinsic value, even if they explicitly say no at the end of the meeting.
Yes, exactly. Let's look closely at your insulation example. Even if you decide at the end of that meeting not to buy a single roll of fiberglass from that company, that home energy efficiency audit still delivered tangible value to you.
That's true.
The specialist walked around your house with a thermal camera. You learned exactly where your windows are losing heat. You learned about R values, the industry metric for how well your insulation actually resists heat flow. So you're suddenly an educated buyer. You got a professional diagnostic opinion on your home's thermal envelope.
Or looking at Bly's examples from the text, like a financial planner.
Yeah.
If they offer a free initial portfolio consultation, The prospect walks away with valuable, personalized advice about their asset allocation, even if they don't ultimately hire the planner.
Exactly.
Or a commercial printer giving a detailed free estimate. The prospect gets a valuable, itemized price benchmark they can use to negotiate with other vendors.
Right. When the meeting itself acts as a standalone product that delivers value, you completely disarm the prospect's fear of a wasted hour.
Because it's not
Yeah,
wasted.
exactly. You are essentially saying, let us give you this highly valuable, customized diagnostic service entirely for free. If you want to hire us to fix the problems we uncover, wonderful. If not, you still walk away smarter and better equipped than you were yesterday.
The actionable takeaway here is to pull up your website, your landing pages, and your brochures today. Audit your own marketing materials. Scrub the words sales, salesperson, and sales presentation from every single call to action.
Just get rid of them.
Reframe your hard offers to imply expert, risk-free, diagnostic guidance. w.Bly stresses this heavily.
Yeah.
Do not assume the prospect knows the consultation is free.
Never assume.
You must explicitly state in the copy that the meeting is free and entirely without obligation. Tell them, repeatedly.
Because the consumer's default assumption is skepticism.
Right.
If it sounds too good to be true, they will assume there is a hidden consulting fee or a high-pressure trap waiting for them. You have to aggressively reassure them that their autonomy is safe.
Okay, so let's track the journey so far. We've removed the friction, we've reframed the offer, we've provided massive upfront educational value through bait pieces and audits. The path is clear.
It is.
But there is one final, formidable hurdle every marketer faces. Human nature itself.
The hardest hurdle.
Overcoming inertia. Which brings us to key idea 5. Forcing the issue with deadlines, trials, and premiums. Because, as Boy famously notes, in the world of direct marketing, a decision deferred is a decision never made.
Procrastination is the ultimate silent killer of marketing ROI.
How bad is it?
Your direct mail piece, your email, or your advertisement has a functional shelf life of about 48 hours in the prospect's mind.
Only 48 hours?
If they read it, think, oh, this is interesting, and put it in their to deal with later pile, that lead is essentially dead.
Wow.
Human beings suffer from status quo bias and decision fatigue. We will always default to inaction unless compelled otherwise. You have to manufacture a reason for them to act today, while your marketing piece is still physically in their hands or on their screen.
And the most traditional proven way to manufacture that urgency is a deadline.
Yes, imposing a strict time limit on the offer.
Like what?
It can be a hard, specific calendar date, like this diagnostic audit offer expires strictly on March 15th. Or a rolling generic limit, like you must reply within 15 days of receiving this letter to claim your free report.
Okay.
It forces the brain to prioritize the decision to avoid loss aversion. You can also leverage limited availability, which taps into the psychology of scarcity. This free prototyping offer is strictly limited to the first 200 companies that respond.
But Bly warns that the limitation has to be highly credible, right? Because consumers have great radar for fake scarcity.
It does. If you run a digital ad saying, we only printed 1,000 copies of this free PDF, the prospect isn't stupid. They know a PDF has infinite supply.
Yeah, that just looks scammy.
Fake scarcity destroys trust instantly. But if you frame it around human capital and say, our senior engineering team only has the bandwidth to provide 50 free network security audits this month, so please reply immediately to secure your spot, that is highly credible. It's logical.
Exactly, and it drives immediate action because the constraint makes perfect sense.
The other major strategy Bly discusses to force the issue is the use of premiums, which are essentially free gifts given in exchange for taking the meeting or buying the product.
Yes, premiums.
Now let's pause there, because this is where I actually want to push back on the text quite heavily.
Oh.
Bly is very critical of using unrelated bribes in B2B marketing. But if I'm selling a highly expensive $150,000 enterprise software package, shouldn't I offer the prospect something universally awesome just to get them in the room?
Like what?
Like, take a 30-minute demo with us and we'll send you a free iPad or an Apple Watch. I hear what Bly is saying about bribery, but let's be real. I've seen Salesforce executives close million-dollar deals at the Masters Golf Tournament or over Michelin star dinners.
That's true, they do.
High-end, unrelated perks absolutely work in the real world. Is Bly ignoring the reality of enterprise relationship building just to protect a rigid direct mail formula? It's a fantastic pushback, but we have to delineate between long-term enterprise relationship sales and front-end direct response lead generation.
Okay, what's the difference?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of corporate psychology at the lead generation phase, offering an iPad to cold prospects is incredibly dangerous.
Why? It gets them in the door. The math says it increases response.
It absolutely increases response, but it brings the entirely wrong demographic through the door for the entirely wrong reasons.
How so?
First, you attract pure freebie seekers. You will get mid-level managers who will happily sit through your 45-minute software presentation while completely zoning out just so they can claim the iPad at the end, with zero intention or authority to ever buy your $150,000 software.
Ah, I see.
You are drastically inflating your lead numbers while actively wasting your highly paid sales team's time.
You're optimizing for the wrong metric. You get a spike in meetings, but a plummet in close rates.
Exactly. But second, and fundamentally more important when dealing with legitimate decision makers, think about the corporate buyer's internal motivation.
Okay.
A corporate buyer's primary subconscious goal is to look smart, responsible, and fiduciary to their boss and their board.
Right.
If they accept a lavish, completely unrelated gift like a flat-screen TV or an Apple Watch from a cold vendor, it looks incredibly suspicious internally.
It looks like a kickback.
It gives the appearance of impropriety. It looks like they are taking a kickback and potentially overpaying for the software just to subsidize their new toy. It damages their internal credibility.
Oh, wow.
Now, taking an existing client to the masters after a 2-year relationship, that's client retention. But offering an Apple Watch to a stranger for a demo, that's a bribe, and smart executives avoid them.
That makes total sense. They don't want to look compromised or ethically murky to their procurement department. So how do you use a premium effectively in a B2B setting without triggering those red flags?
The premium must be highly relevant to the product you are selling, and it should ideally enhance the buyer's professional capability.
Do we have an example?
Bly gives a great historical example of a publisher who sold highly expensive technical information databases on CD-ROM back when that technology was new.
Right, back in the 90s.
Their premium to get people to subscribe wasn't a set of golf clubs. It was a free, high-end CD-ROM reader for their computer.
Oh, that's incredibly smart. It's a high-value physical item. It is directly necessary to use the product they just bought, and it gives the buyer a new piece of hardware that helps them do their job better.
Exactly.
It makes them look like a savvy, aggressive negotiator to their boss who managed to get free hardware thrown into the deal rather than a corrupt employee taking bribes.
Exactly. You align the premium with their professional success. Another incredibly powerful way to force the issue and drive action without cheapening your brand is through the use of trials.
Trials.
Bly highlights an incredible split test run by MCI long distance back in the day to illustrate the behavioral economics of trials versus discounts.
I love a good split test.
They ran 2 identical direct mail ads. One offered $5 off your first phone bill. The other offered 30 free minutes of long-distance calls.
But mathematically, depending on the rate, those are essentially the exact same monetary value.
They are functionally identical on the balance sheet, but the 30 free minutes offer pulled roughly twice the response rate of the flat cash discount.
Why? If the math is the same, why does the human brain react so differently?
Because of a concept in behavioral economics called mental accounting, combined with experiential value.
Mental accounting.
A trial run holds a vastly higher perceived emotional value. When a prospect hears $5 off, it feels abstract. It feels like a tiny, insignificant drop in the bucket of a larger bill. It just feels like a slightly less painful loss.
Right. It doesn't move the needle.
The 30 free minutes feels like a tangible, defined experience. It feels like a risk-free opportunity to test drive the value before committing.
Yeah.
It shifts the framing from a financial transaction to an experiential gain. It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry by letting them test the waters.
The overarching takeaway for the listener regarding this section is clear. Never leave the timing of the prospect's response up to chance.
Never.
Always give your prospect a credible, logical, time-limited reason to act today. And if you are going to leverage a free gift or premium to boost that response, make sure it directly relates to your product, solves a secondary problem for them, and makes them look good in their professional capacity.
Do not bribe them. Empower them.
Empowering the buyer is fundamentally what this entire chapter is trying to teach us.
It really is.
Which brings us perfectly to our synthesis.
Okay.
Let's pull all of these disparate threads, the bait pieces, the negative offers, the trials, the repackaging, and tie them all together.
Okay.
If there is one core philosophical insight that represents the soul of Chapter 3, I think it is this. Crafting an offer is not just a cold, mathematical, transactional request. It is an exercise in profound empathy.
I completely agree. When you step back and look at the architecture of the soft offers, the educational Trojan horse of the bait pieces, the diagnostic framing of the repackaged hard offer,
It all connects.
it all comes down to deeply understanding the prospect's internal world. You are addressing their fears of being sold to, their severe time constraints, and their desperate desire for real, actionable solutions rather than just more marketing noise.
Lead generation, at its highest level, isn't about tricking people into a funnel.
Hmm.
It is about trading something of demonstrably high perceived value. Whether that's an educational booklet that genuinely teaches a founder how to buy software, a customized home energy audit that reveals thermal leaks, or a free 30-minute test drive of a service for the prospect's most precious and fiercely guarded resources, their time and their attention.
You are meticulously, systematically removing every ounce of perceived risk from the initial encounter.
Right.
You are taking the friction out of the equation and framing your company's deep expertise as a gift. When you successfully execute that shift, you stop being viewed as a pesky adversarial salesperson, and you instantly become a trusted consultative advisor.
That's the magic trick.
That is the true mechanism of how you transform skeptical, defensive strangers into eager, highly qualified prospects who are actively raising their hands, asking you to help them solve their problem.
It is complete paradigm shift, and it is incredibly powerful when you execute it correctly. It leaves you with an interesting, almost provocative question to ponder as you look at your own business today.
What's the question?
If you removed your core product entirely from your marketing, if you couldn't sell the thing you actually sell, would your advertising and your offers still be valuable enough that people would pay to read them?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
If the answer is no, you might not be making an offer at all. You might just be making noise. But now that you understand the deep psychology of crafting an absolutely irresistible offer, you are finally ready to put that perfectly tuned message directly into the hands of your ideal prospects.
And that's where the real fun begins.
And that is exactly what you'll be able to explore on your own as you dive into the precise, highly targeted, and mathematically ruthless world of direct mail in the next chapter.
So if you were to send a perfectly coded, hyper-targeted email campaign today, or maybe launch a highly optimized social media ad, you'd probably look at a 1 to 2% click-through rate and call it a solid victory.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You'd be thrilled.
Right, because the digital landscape has basically trained us to just accept that the vast majority of our messages are going to be ignored. They'll be swiped away or, trapped in a spam filter forever.
Exactly. It's just the cost of doing business online.
But what if I told you that a physical piece of paper, just like folded twice and stuffed into a plain white envelope, could reliably pull a response rate of 10%? Or, in some cases, an astonishing 50% from a targeted group.
It sounds completely made up, honestly.
It really does. But today, we are putting away the digital screens. We are diving into a landscape that feels completely counterintuitive to most modern marketers because it relies heavily on tangible, physical friction.
Yeah, in a world that is so obsessed with instantaneous, frictionless digital communication, one of the most mathematically reliable ways to generate high-quality, eager sales prospects is actually just sitting inside a standard physical mailbox.
It really is the ultimate hidden in plain sight mechanism because, we've become so completely saturated by digital marketing that we tend to dismiss physical mail as this antiquated relic.
Or we just lump it all together as a junk mail, right?
Yeah.
We assume that because we might immediately toss a local pizza flyer in the recycling bin, the entire medium of direct mail is just dead.
We really do. But a well-engineered direct mail piece can reliably turn complete strangers into qualified leads, assuming, and this is a big assumption, that you understand the invisible psychological rules governing how human beings actually interact with physical objects.
And that is exactly what we're going to unpack.
Right. So this deep dive is entirely focused on pulling back the curtain on those specific rules. We are examining Chapter 4 of Robert W.Bly's The Lead Generation Handbook, which is focused exclusively on direct mail.
It's such a dense, fascinating chapter.
It is. And look, if you are sitting there trying to build a business, scale a sales operation, or even if you just want to understand the deeply ingrained behavioral psychology of how we process information, this matters immensely to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're about to learn the hidden architecture of a successful mail campaign.
Exactly. From the microscopic details of list hygiene to the very specific color of the reply card you should use, we're going to look at a predictable, scalable system designed to get your ideal customers to raise their hands and literally ask you for more.
So before we even looked at the components of a physical mailer, I think we really have to establish a baseline for what success actually looks like in this medium.
Right, manage expectations.
Yeah, because direct mail operates on a very specific set of mathematical realities that honestly often shock people who are used to digital vanity metrics, things like impressions or video views.
The batting average analogy really helped me wrap my head around this when I was going through the source material. I mean, in everyday life, if you attempt something 100 times and you only succeed once, you feel like a catastrophic failure.
Right. A 1% success rate sounds terrible in normal context.
But in the context of direct mail, getting 1 or 2 people out of 100 on a completely cold list of strangers to reply, that is a massive financial win.
It's huge.
That single percentage point can make a campaign incredibly profitable.
And the context of that 1 to 5% baseline for cold rented lists is just crucial to understand. Think about the massive cognitive leap you are asking a prospect to make here.
Right.
These are people who have never heard of your company. They definitely did not ask for your mail. They're just going about their busy professional lives, and you were attempting to interrupt them.
Right. Completely unprompted.
You have to convince them to physically open an envelope, pull out and read a letter, process a totally new concept, and then take a physical action to respond to you.
It's a lot to ask.
It is. So achieving that sequence of events with 1 to 5 out of 100 cold prospects is honestly a triumph of psychological engineering. And as the text points out, that response rate is not a static ceiling by any means.
Yeah, it changes dramatically based on your relationship with the list, right?
Exactly. And the value of your offer.
Because the book mentions that if you are mailing to your existing customer base, which they call your house list, or if you are offering a highly desirable item, a premium.
Like a bribe, basically.
Yeah, a bribe. Those response rates can absolutely soar. We are talking 10%, 20%, even up to 50% response rates.
Which is staggering. 50% of the people receiving the envelope dropping whatever they're doing to reply to you.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
So how do we physically build this thing?
Well, the physical format of the message is the very first major structural decision you have to make. Because the format essentially dictates the friction.
Friction being how hard it is for them to say yes.
Exactly. And the source outlines a few very specific proven formats that basically dominate the lead generation space. The undisputed heavyweights are the traditional 1 to 2 page letter, mailed in an envelope alongside a completely separate reply card. And then there's the trifold self-mailer.
Okay, let's break down that trifold self-mailer for a second because it is such a staple.
It really is.
Imagine taking a standard 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and folding it twice horizontally.
Yeah.
Exactly the way you would fold a standard business letter to fit into an envelope.
Right, so you end up with 3 stacked panels.
Yeah. But the defining feature of the trifold self-mailer is that the bottom third, that bottom panel, is actually a perforated business reply card.
And the absolute genius of the trifold is how it forces a very specific type of haptic engagement from the user.
Haptic engagement.
Yeah, physical touch and interaction. When you hold a trifold and you decide you want to accept the offer, you have to physically tear along that perforated line to detach the reply card.
Oh, I see.
That tactile action, literally the sound of the tear, the physical separation of the paper, it creates a subconscious sense of commitment. You are physically altering the object in order to take the next step.
You're invested at that point. You broke it, you bought it, or at least you're mailing it in.
Exactly.
Now, there is a third option gaining a lot of traction too, which is just the classic postcard. And postcards are incredibly attractive from a business cost perspective, right?
Oh, very much so.
They are cheap to print, they're cheaper to mail, and there is no envelope to open. The prospect sees the core message the absolute millisecond they pull it out of their mailbox.
True. But there is a massive structural catch with postcards.
Right.
Unless you are using something called a double postcard, which has this fold-over tearaway card attached to it, a standard postcard completely lacks a physical reply mechanism.
And that structural catch completely changes the dynamic of how someone responds.
It changes everything. With a standard postcard, you basically shift the friction of responding away from the physical mail piece, and you place it squarely onto the shoulders of the prospect.
You're making them do the heavy lifting.
Precisely. You are asking them to read the card, put it down, pick up a phone, and dial a 10-digit number, or go to a computer and type in a specific web address.
Right. It requires them to bridge this huge gap between the physical piece of cardboard in their hand and an entirely different medium, like a phone or a computer.
You are asking them to do significantly more work, even though it was a lot cheaper and easier for you to send.
That is a great point. That is the trade-off right there.
Yeah. The 1 to 2 page letter with a separate reply card, or that trifold with the perforated card we just talked about, those formats reduce the prospect's work to almost absolute zero.
Right, because the reply mechanism is sitting right there in their hands. It's pre-printed, ready to go. You want to make saying yes the path of absolute least resistance.
Exactly. Okay, so we understand the physical vehicle now. We know we're going to use a letter and a reply card, or a trifold, to minimize that friction.
Right. But, a perfectly formatted letter with a perforated edge is completely useless if it lands on the wrong desk.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, if I am selling heavy industrial pipeline equipment and my beautifully engineered letter goes to a local bakery, I am getting a 0% response rate, no matter how easy that card is to tear.
Right, the baker doesn't need pipeline equipment. And that highlights where the foundation of the entire direct mail enterprise is the mailing list.
The list is everything.
It is a fundamental rule of the direct marketing industry. You can actually survive mediocre, even slightly bad copy if your list is perfectly targeted.
Oh, really?
Yes, but brilliant Shakespearean award-winning copy cannot save a bad list. You absolutely have to put the message in front of the person who actually possesses the problem you are trying to solve.
Okay, so I have to push back on the book's methodology here just a little bit based on how we operate in business today.
Okay, let's hear it.
The source material talks really heavily about renting lists from brokers, but I mean, if you or I want to find 1,000 prospects right now, today, we have tools like Apollo or Zoom Info or even just regular old LinkedIn.
Sure, digital scraping tools.
Yeah. I could literally spend a few hours on a Sunday scraping a highly specific list of 1,200 executives, grab their company addresses, and just build a spreadsheet myself for free.
You could.
So why on earth would I pay a broker good money to rent a list?
That is a very, very common modern assumption. And honestly, it highlights a critical misunderstanding about list decay and the massive hidden costs of data compilation.
List decay.
Yeah. The source material lays out 3 options for sourcing a list. You can rent from a broker, you can compile it yourself, which is that scraping method you just described, or you can use your own internal house list, which we established is always the most responsive option.
Right, the house list is gold.
But when you compile a list yourself from scratch, even using modern digital tools, you are essentially taking a static snapshot of a highly fluid environment.
Because people change jobs.
Constantly. People are quitting, they're getting promoted, being fired, or their entire companies are moving office locations across town.
Ah, I see. So the decay rate of B2B data is actually pretty massive.
It's surprisingly fast. By the time you format your scraped list, finalize the copy, and actually send it to the commercial printer, a decent chunk of those people don't even work at those physical addresses anymore.
That makes a lot of sense.
It is exactly the problem. List hygiene is a relentless, ongoing, expensive battle. If you compile a list today, a significant percentage of it becomes literal dead weight in 6 to 12 months.
So you're just paying postage to mail things into a void.
Exactly. And this is why renting from a professional list broker remains the absolute standard for serious direct marketers.
Because the broker manages the decay.
Right. Brokers have access to massive, continually updated databases, things like the Standard Rate and Data Service, or SRDS, which catalogs thousands of available lists that are actively maintained.
And the source actually makes a really fascinating point here about the absolute gold standard of rented lists. They talk about magazine subscriber databases.
Yes.
Why are magazine subscribers specifically singled out as these massive gold mines for lead generation? I wouldn't have guessed that.
It all comes down to the rigorous auditing processes that are imposed on the publishing industry.
Auditing.
Yeah, so think about trade magazines and industry publications.
Yeah.
They survive primarily by selling advertising space, right?
Right, that's their revenue model.
But to justify their high advertising rates to corporate sponsors, they have to mathematically prove to independent circulation bureaus that their readership numbers are accurate.
Oh.
This forces the publishers to constantly verify, scrub, and update their subscriber addresses.
That is brilliant. So if you rent a list of subscribers to a highly niche trade magazine, say Plastics Technology Monthly, With a very high degree of certainty that those names, job titles, and physical addresses are actually current.
Exactly, because the magazine's very survival and ad revenue depends entirely on that accuracy.
The publisher is literally doing all the expensive, tedious list hygiene for you.
Yeah.
You are just renting the pristine result.
That's it, exactly. But, the book does give a pretty stark warning to small volume mailers here.
Right, because brokers like scale.
They do. List brokers make their money on volume commissions. They want to work with massive mail order companies, renting hundreds of thousands of names at a single time.
So if I am just a small entrepreneur or I'm running a highly localized B2B service company and I only want to mail like 500 or 1,000 highly targeted people in my city,
A major commercial broker might not even return your phone call. It's just not worth their time.
that is a very real logistical hurdle.
It is, and the solution requires a bit of detective work on your part. The source advises small volume lead generators to seek out highly specialized directories that aren't necessarily sitting on the mainstream commercial list market.
They gave a great case study on this in the book.
They did. There was a company selling medical collection services, right? And they didn't just go out and blast a generic list of doctors.
Right, which would be way too broad.
Exactly. Instead, they dug deep and located a very specific, obscure directory containing 1,200 radiology business managers.
That level of specificity is just incredible to me. They didn't target the physician who actually performs the medical procedure. They targeted the specific administrator sitting in the back office who is responsible for collecting the unpaid bills.
And that extreme specificity dictates your return on investment. You are completely bypassing the gatekeepers and landing directly on the desk of the actual decision maker.
And how you address that envelope matters too, right?
Oh, it is paramount. You absolutely must address individuals by their actual name and their specific title.
So no generic labels.
None. Using generic labels like occupant or to the purchasing agent is just the fastest possible way to destroy your campaign.
Because mailing to occupant is a massive psychological misstep. It instantly signals to the recipient that you have no idea who they are, you don't care enough to find out, and you are just blasting this exact same paper out to everyone in the zip code.
It screams junk mail.
Yeah, and their defensive shields just go up before they even touch the paper.
The hidden cost of a bad list or poor personalization on the envelope goes far beyond just wasting 30 cents on postage. It damages your brand equity, and it basically guarantees a zero return on your investment.
And to handle this level of personalization at scale, especially back before modern digital printing was a thing, the source emphasizes the immense value of what they call letter shops.
Right, these are the specialized fulfillment centers that handle the physical assembly, the labeling, and the actual mailing of these packages.
Wait, okay, before we go further, I have to ask about this. The book mentions things like Cheshire labels and magnetic tape when talking about these letter shops.
All the history of it.
Yeah, I know we live in an era where we just, upload a CSV file to a cloud printer and it's done. But physically, what was actually happening in these mailrooms back then to automate this? What on earth is a Cheshire label?
It is such a fascinating piece of mechanical history, and it really paved the way for modern direct mail.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
So before we had laser printers that could just effortlessly print a different unique address directly onto every single envelope, letter shops use these massive Cheshire labeling machines.
Okay.
Imagine a massive, continuous, accordion-folded stack of computer paper printed by a giant mainframe computer, and it contains thousands of addresses in a row.
Like the old dot matrix printer paper with the holes on the side.
Exactly like that. A Cheshire machine would feed this continuous paper in, physically guillotine cut each individual address into a tiny little rectangular slip, apply a layer of wet glue to the back of that slip, and physically stamp it onto an envelope moving down a conveyor belt.
Wow.
And it did this at speeds of thousands of envelopes per hour.
So it was a highly mechanical, noisy, physical manufacturing process just to get the names on the envelopes. And what about the magnetic tape?
Well, the magnetic tape was the standard medium for transferring the data itself between companies.
Like a cassette tape.
Kind of, but much bigger. A list broker wouldn't email you a spreadsheet. They couldn't. They would courier a literal physical reel of magnetic tape containing the database.
That is wild.
The letter shop would load that magnetic tape into their mainframe just to print the continuous feed paper for the Cheshire machine.
Understanding that sheer physical effort really underscores why list accuracy was so critical back then and why it still is.
Absolutely. You were paying for expensive machine time, physical glue, mechanical wear and tear, and human labor. You literally could not afford to run bad data through that process.
That paints such a vivid picture of the logistics. Okay, so let's say we have our perfectly curated, highly targeted list of 1,200 radiology business managers.
Okay, the list is ready.
We have the letter shop ready to apply the labels. Now we have to figure out what we are actually going to say to them and how the letter needs to look.
Right, because we need to ensure they don't just toss it in the recycling bin. They need to actually read the copy and take action.
This brings us to a really fascinating intersection of visual design and behavioral psychology. The visual presentation of a lead generation letter must actively disguise the fact that it is a mass-produced piece of marketing.
Yes, this is a crucial concept.
It completely changed how I view marketing materials when I read it. The book's approach makes me think of, like, leaving a handwritten sticky note on a colleague's desk.
That's a great analogy.
Because when you see a standard, glossy, full-color corporate brochure, your brain instantly categorizes it as marketing material.
Yep. Your guard goes up immediately. You know you're being sold to.
But a sticky note or a plain typed memo, it feels personal, it feels raw, and it implies urgency. It slips right past that marketing defense filter in your brain because it looks like a one-to-one human communication.
And the source argues that our sales letter needs to function exactly like that sticky note.
Right.
The sticky note analogy perfectly captures the desired psychological effect. The source cites Ted Kickler, who was a highly respected direct mail designer, and he established very strict, almost counterintuitive rules for achieving this specific look.
Counterintuitive how?
Well, his foundational rule is that you must never, ever typeset the body copy of a lead generation letter.
Meaning, do not make it look like a perfectly formatted column in a glossy magazine or like a slick textbook page.
Exactly. You want it to look like it was literally typed on a typewriter in an office,
Yeah.
specifically for the person who is reading it.
So what fonts do you use?
Kickler dictates using a classic serif typeface, specifically Courier or Prestige.
Like the old typewriter fonts.
Yeah. He also mandates wide margins, like a 6.5-inch line length, and indenting the start of every single paragraph by exactly 5 spaces.
I mean, a modern graphic designer would probably have an absolute heart attack looking at those specs today.
Oh, they'd hate it.
They would say it looks dated, it looks plain, and it has way too much white space.
But the objective isn't to win an aesthetic design award.
Right. The objective is to make it look like routine, breathable, personal business correspondence.
The plainness is the strategy itself. If the letter looks pristine, hyper-designed, and highly polished, it immediately triggers that advertising defense mechanism.
Your visual cortex processes it as a threat or an ad before your conscious brain even reads a single word.
Exactly. By making it look like a standard, boring business memo, you buy yourself the few seconds of unshielded attention required to get them to read the opening sentence.
And once you have their attention visually, you have to guide them through the text psychologically,
Yes.
which is where the 5-step motivating sequence comes into play.
The formula for the actual words on the page. Let's walk through these 5 steps, because they really apply to almost any form of persuasion, not just mail.
Okay, lay them out for us.
Step 1, get attention. Step 2, identify the problem or need. Step 3, position the product as the solution. Step 4, prove your case. And finally, step 5, tell the reader what to do next.
It sounds simple.
The sequence appears deceptively simple, but executing it flawlessly without sounding like a sleazy used car salesman is a real art form.
And the source provides a masterful, real-world example of this in action. The Graver Chemical Ecosorb letter.
Yes, it follows this 5-step sequence with absolute precision. It is really worth analyzing how it moves the reader through those different psychological states.
When I read the Ecosorb letter in the book, what hit me wasn't the technical chemical explanation. It was the sheer empathy of the opening hook.
Empathy is the perfect word for it.
Step 1 is getting attention, and they do it by asking a highly specific question that targets the prospect's exact daily frustration.
Do you have the quote?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Yeah.
I can ask, do you have a potable water supply or waste stream that contains organic contaminants? Have you considered activated carbon as the ideal treatment, only to ultimately reject deep bed activated carbon installations because of the cost?
Notice what that opening accomplishes. It is not a generic, self-centered corporate greeting like, "Hello, we are Graver Chemical, and we have been in business for 50 glorious years."
Right, nobody cares about your 50 years in business.
Exactly. It is a hyper-specific diagnostic question that immediately proves the writer deeply understands the prospect's industry, their operational headaches, and their budget constraints.
It handles step 1, gaining attention, and step 2, identifying the problem in a single, fluid motion.
Yes. If the reader has that specific water treatment problem, they are completely 100% locked in.
It creates this instant bond of credibility. And once they have you nodding along, they pivot instantly to step 3, which is positioning the product as the solution.
Right.
The very next sentence is just, EcoSorb filter pre-coats may be the answer for you. It is incredibly short, punchy, and it directly answers the anxiety raised in the previous sentence.
The brevity there is highly intentional. They don't linger on the problem and depress the reader. They immediately offer the lifeline.
But simply claiming you have the magic answer isn't enough, obviously. You have to satisfy the logical, skeptical part of the brain.
Which leads right to step 4. Prove your case.
Right. The EcoSorb letter then briefly explains its unique physical composition, how the discrete particles of activated carbon are attached to fibers, creating superior adsorption and handling large flow volumes with minimal pressure drop.
They give just enough technical scientific detail to prove they aren't selling snake oil, but they don't turn it into a 30-page engineering schematic.
Exactly. They prove competence quickly, and then they move straight to step 5. Tell the reader what to do next, the call to action.
The most important part.
The letter says, is EcoSorb right for your application? We'd be delighted to evaluate a water sample to see if EcoSorb can handle your particular requirements.
And then it tells them exactly how to initiate that evaluation, right?
Yep. It says to check a box on the enclosed reply card and drop it in the mail. That's it.
The entire architecture of that letter hinges on a single vital concept in lead generation, the psychology of brevity. Yes. If we step back and look at the broader sales cycle, you must remember that you are not trying to close a massive financial transaction with this one letter.
Right. You aren't asking for a check.
You are only trying to generate a lead. You are trying to get the prospect to raise their hand and say, I'm interested.
Which is why the EcoSorb letter omits all the pricing tiers. It omits the company history. It omits the granular chemical breakdown of the fibers.
Because over-explaining kills curiosity.
That is a brilliant distinction. You are not selling the product in this envelope. You are selling the next step.
Precisely.
You want to give them just enough information to make them realize that you possess the solution to their headache, but leave a massive information gap that literally forces them to contact you to get relief.
You are engineering a situation where their curiosity and their burning desire for a solution outweigh the physical friction of responding.
But you still have to make that physical response as frictionless as possible, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have a prospect who has read the letter, they are intrigued by EcoSorb, and they actually want to send in a water sample. How do we physically construct the package so that replying requires almost zero cognitive or physical effort?
Because if they have to hunt for a blank envelope or find a pen or look up your mailing address,
they will put it in a pile on their desk and forget about it forever.
Exactly. And this is where the mechanical engineering of direct mail really shines. We transition from the copywriting to the physical reply cards and the outer envelopes.
Let's examine the reply card first.
Yeah.
We discussed how the sales letter needs to look like plain, typed, breathable business correspondence.
Right. But the reply card must look entirely different.
How so?
The source insists it should be printed on bright, highly contrasting paper blue, pink, or ideally canary yellow.
The visual interrupt of canary yellow?
It's startling.
When a prospect opens this very official, plain white business envelope and pulls out a white letter, this bright yellow card physically falls out onto their desk. It is completely impossible to ignore.
And the book notes that, unlike the letter, the reply card should be professionally typeset, not typewritten.
Oh, interesting. Why the switch?
The typesetting gives the card weight and official authority. It needs to look like an official, structured corporate a formalized request for information.
But the most brilliant logistical trick in the entire text, a technique that honestly borders on genius for its simplicity, involves how you handle the prospect's mailing address and the tracking of the campaign.
Yes. The window envelope trick.
Let's break this down because it genuinely blew my mind.
Yeah.
When you run a list of 1,200 names, you get their addresses.
Right.
The standard assumption is that you print those addresses on the outside of the white envelope. But the book suggests a radically different approach.
You affix the mailing label directly onto the canary yellow reply card instead.
You put their return address label on the exact card they're supposed to mail back to you.
Yes. And to get that to work with the Postal Service, you design the outer envelope with a clear plastic window. You physically fold the letter and the reply card together in such a specific way That the mailing label on the yellow card aligns perfectly and shows right through the window of the outer envelope.
It is an incredibly elegant solution to multiple problems at once.
Hmm.
First, it completely eliminates the friction for the prospect.
How so?
Well, they don't have to find a pen and fill out their name, title, company name, and address on the reply card. The letter shop already did it for them.
Exactly.
All the prospect has to do is check a box that says, "Yes, evaluate my water sample," and drop the card in the mail. It reduces the physical labor to a single flick of a wrist.
But the second massive benefit of this trick is flawless campaign tracking.
Tell me about the tracking.
Okay, so when you rent different lists from different brokers to test which audience is most responsive, you need to know exactly where every single lead originated, right?
Right. Otherwise, you don't know what's working.
So you have the list broker print a tiny alphanumeric code called a key code in the corner of the labels for that specific list. For example, the list of radiology managers might have the code RAD105 printed tiny in the corner of the label.
And because the prospect is physically mailing that exact label back to you on the reply card, there is zero ambiguity.
Exactly. You don't have to ask them on the phone, hey, how did you hear about us?
You just look at the card, you see R80-105, and you know with 100% certainty that the lead came from that specific rented list.
It creates a perfectly closed-loop attribution system. You know exactly which lists are profitable and which ones are just burning your money.
And as the text notes, adding a key code to a rented list only costs an extra $1 to $2 per 1,000 names.
It is arguably the cheapest, most accurate tracking system in the history of marketing.
Okay, but what about the postage on that reply card? If we are trying to remove all friction, we obviously don't want the prospect rummaging through their desk looking for a stamp.
Right, you remove that barrier by using a business reply permit.
How does that work?
This involves printing a specific barcode and permit number on the reply card, which basically tells the post office to charge your corporate account only when the card is actually delivered back to you.
Ah, so you only pay for the ones you get back.
Yes. And the source is very explicit about one operational rule here.
Yeah.
Never, ever put physical postage stamps on reply cards.
The math on that makes it pretty obvious why. If you put a physical 30-cent stamp on 1,000 reply cards and you get a successful 2% response rate, you just wasted 980 physical stamps.
They went straight into the trash can.
It is a staggering waste of capital.
It really is. Now let's zoom out and look at the vehicle carrying all of these components. The outer envelope itself.
Okay.
We know it has a window to show the label on the reply card. The source recommends a standard Nose New 10 business envelope. But this brings us to a fascinating debate regarding the psychology of the exterior packaging, specifically the use of teasers.
A teaser being when a marketer prints compelling promotional copy right on the outside of the envelope to convince the prospect to open it, right?
Exactly. Something like, open immediately for your free industry report, or the solution to your water contamination is inside.
But if the entire goal of the outer envelope is simply to get opened, why would the book suggest we might want to use a completely plain, boring white envelope instead of a compelling teaser?
It requires us to unpack the delicate balance between standing out and blending in, and it really relies on the concept of cognitive dissonance.
How so?
A teaser definitely promises a benefit. It attempts to hook the reader instantly. But the psychological risk is that, in doing so, it raises the prospect's defensive shields.
Right.
A teaser screams at the absolute top of its lungs, I am an advertisement. Someone is trying to sell you something.
And as we discussed with the sticky note analogy earlier, the human brain is highly trained to filter out and discard advertising without dedicating any conscious thought to it whatsoever.
Yep. By contrasting that, think about a completely plain white envelope with no company logo, unless your company is a universally trusted household name, and a typewritten blind return address.
It creates a psychological anomaly.
Exactly. It looks like personal correspondence. It mimics the visual cues of a bill, a letter from a lawyer, an IRS notice, or a memo from a colleague.
It creates an information gap in the prospect's mind. They look at this plain envelope and think, I have no idea what this is, but it looks official. I am compelled to open it just to find out.
It is the ultimate Trojan horse strategy.
I love that. You utilize the boring, bureaucratic, official look of the plain envelope to sneak past the corporate mailroom gatekeeper and to bypass the prospect's own internal spam filter.
You get them to physically open the package. And once the envelope is open, then the bright yellow reply card falls out, the highly targeted letter takes over, and the 5-step sequence does the actual selling.
You are weaponizing curiosity. The teaser gives them enough information to dismiss you entirely. The plain envelope forces them to engage just to resolve the mystery of what is inside.
It's brilliant.
So we have the Trojan horse plain envelope, the breathable typed letter, and the frictionless yellow reply card.
The perfect package.
But here's a strategic question that comes up a lot. If we are deliberately keeping the letter brief to build curiosity and maintain that information gap, shouldn't we include a beautiful, full-color, glossy brochure in the envelope alongside it?
Oh, the brochure.
To establish our visual credibility and prove we are a legitimate professional company.
This is exactly what the source refers to as the brochure dilemma, and it is a topic of intense, ongoing debate among direct response marketers.
Really? It seems like a no-brainer to include one.
Including a brochure is not an automatic, guaranteed win. There are significant pros and cons, and introducing a brochure fundamentally alters the psychology of how the prospect processes the entire package.
Okay, let's examine the pros first. Under what circumstances does a brochure actually increase the response rate?
Well, a brochure builds immediate, undeniable visual credibility. It is absolutely essential if you are selling a visually driven product or a physical experience.
Like what?
The source uses the example of selling a seaside resort vacation or complex novelty items. You literally cannot effectively sell a luxury beach vacation with just a typed courier font letter.
Right. Trust us, the beach is very nice.
Exactly. The prospect needs to see the azure blue water, the pristine white sand, the architecture of the hotel rooms. A brochure does the heavy lifting of visual persuasion there.
That makes perfect sense. If the value proposition is highly visual, you have to show, not just tell.
Another major psychological advantage is that a brochure extends the physical lifespan of the promotion.
What do you mean by lifespan?
A one-page letter is usually read and then either acted upon immediately or it's thrown in the trash.
Yeah.
But a high-quality, informative, heavy brochure, prospects will often file that away in their desk drawer or reference cabinet for months.
Oh, because it feels valuable.
Right. Then, 6 months down the line, when they suddenly experience the problem you solve, they remember the brochure, they dig it out of the file, and they call you. It acts as a long-term, dormant asset in their office.
Credibility, necessary visual appeal, and an extended shelf life. Those are incredibly strong arguments for using a brochure. So why wouldn't I just automatically include one in every single lead generation campaign I send out? What are the structural cons?
The first con is purely logistical and financial. The cost. Designing, color printing, and shipping heavy, multi-page glossy brochures significantly increases your production overhead and your postage rates.
It adds up fast.
Very fast. But the most dangerous con is psychological. It goes right back to the paradox of information that we discussed regarding the 5-step sequence and brevity.
The idea that over-explaining kills the curiosity required to generate a lead.
Exactly the issue. If you provide the prospect with a comprehensive, beautifully designed 12-page brochure that details every single feature, every technical specification, every pricing tier, and every historical milestone of your company.
You run the very real risk of answering too many of their questions.
Yes. You completely satisfy their curiosity right there at their desk.
And if their curiosity is fully satisfied, what is their motivation to pull out a pen, check a box on that canary yellow reply card, and request a sales call?
There is none. Why should they invite a salesperson to call them if they feel they already possess all the information necessary to make a decision?
That's a huge trap.
Very often, they will read the comprehensive brochure, decide, we don't have the budget for this right now, and throw the entire package away. You want to leave a deliberate knowledge gap that can only be filled by taking action.
The letter teases the solution. The reply card is the key to unlocking it. The brochure, if overdone, basically gives away the key for free.
It's a very delicate balancing act. If you don't absolutely need it to prove visual quality, you might be much better off leaving it out.
You save the printing costs, you save on postage, and you keep the mystery alive, forcing them to reply to get the rest of the story.
Let the secondary follow-up process, the actual sales call, or the fulfillment package, do the heavy lifting of providing all the granular, detailed information, but only after the prospect has identified themselves as a warm, interested lead by returning the card.
Wow, okay, we have the package completely engineered now.
That's ready to go.
We have agonized over list hygiene. We've structured the copy perfectly with the 5 steps. We are using the window envelope trick with the yellow card, and we've decided to hold back the brochure to maintain the information gap.
Yep.
Now, we have to physically deliver this machine to the prospect's desk. And more importantly, How do we know if it is actually working before we blow our entire annual marketing budget on postage?
This is where the logistics of delivery, the discipline of testing, and the overarching campaign strategy come in. This is where theory meets reality.
Let's start with the postage itself, because it is a far more strategic decision than most people realize.
Oh, postage is huge. The source spends time comparing first-class mail to third-class bulk rate. Now, keep the historical context of the text in mind. At the time of publication, first-class postage was 32 cents and third-class bulk rate was 19.8 cents.
Okay, so that is a massive financial discrepancy when you scale it up. I mean, if you are mailing 100,000 letters, using bulk rate saves you tens of thousands of dollars on the front end. It seems like an obvious choice for a business trying to manage costs.
You would certainly save a fortune on the initial outbound costs. But the source highly, highly recommends using first-class mail for lead generation, despite the premium price tag.
Why?
The reasons are entirely pragmatic and based on maximizing the final return on investment. The first massive advantage is speed.
Right.
First-class mail gets processed and delivered in a matter of days. Third-class bulk mail, because it is a lower priority for the Postal Service, can take an average of 2.5 weeks to arrive at its destination.
2.5 weeks in the modern business cycle is an absolute eternity. The prospect's budget could change, their personnel could change, or a competitor could reach them in the time your letter is just sitting in a postal sorting facility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second major factor is the actual delivery rate. First-class mail has a near 100% delivery rate.
And if they move?
If the person has moved, first-class mail is forwarded to their new address or returned to you, which helps you clean your list.
That's super valuable.
But bulk rate, however, loses roughly 10% of its volume in the system. 1 in 10 of your carefully crafted letters simply vanishes and never reaches its destination.
So by choosing the cheaper postage, you are instantly slicing 10% off the very top of your potential response universe.
You are paying less per piece, but you are getting significantly less reach and zero forwardability.
But there is a psychological element to the postage too, isn't there?
Oh, the most critical reason to use first-class postage ties directly back to our discussion about the Trojan horse plain envelope and the mailroom gatekeeper. First-class mail is perceived by society as important business or personal correspondence. It features a real, physical stamp or a clean, metered red ink mark.
And third class.
Third-class mail is legally required to be identified, often using an indicia, which is that pre-printed, blocky square box in the top right corner where a stamp should be, usually saying PRSRT, STD, or something similar.
And what happens when a corporate mailroom clerk or an executive secretary sees that pre-printed indicia box?
Many corporate mailrooms, and certainly executive assistants whose entire job is to protect their boss's time, are explicitly instructed to intercept and throw away anything that looks like bulk junk mail before it ever reaches the decision-maker's desk.
Oh, so the indicia is the universal signal for mass advertising.
It is the kiss of death.
So that brilliant Trojan horse plain envelope we designed, the one meant to look like a personal memo, it gets completely neutralized if it has a bulk rate indicia printed on it. The gatekeeper spots the indicia from a mile away, realizes it's a mass mailing, and tosses it in the recycling bin.
The first-class postage, specifically a live physical stamp if you can manage it, is the final crucial piece of the disguise. It is the passport that ensures the envelope actually gets past the secretary and into the hands of the radiology business manager.
The psychology applies to every single millimeter of the package, right down to the stamp.
It really does.
Okay, first class it is. Now we are ready to execute. Do we just print all 1,200 letters, dump them in the mailbox on a Tuesday, and pray that the math works out?
Never. The cardinal rule of direct response marketing, the rule that separates professionals from gamblers, is that you must always test.
Always test.
Always. The source advises isolating a small representative segment, first say 200 to 300 names randomly selected from your list.
Okay.
You drop those 300 letters in the mail, you spend the minimal amount on postage and printing, and you wait to see what happens.
You are creating a controlled experiment. And what are we looking for in the results? What constitutes a passing grade?
As we established at the beginning, if you get a 1 to 3% response rate, meaning you receive between 3 and 9 canary yellow reply cards back from that initial test of 300, you have a verified winner.
The math works.
The math works. You can then confidently roll out the campaign and mail the remaining thousands of names on the list, knowing roughly what your return will be.
But what if I mail those 300 test letters, wait 2 weeks and I get absolutely zero reply cards back? What if the campaign completely bombs? I've lost the money on the test.
This is where the sheer pragmatism and resilience of the expert direct marketer comes in. If the test fails, you do not sit in a boardroom and guess what went wrong. You do not just assume the copy was bad.
What do you do?
You pick up the telephone and you manually call the people who didn't respond.
Wait, really? You actually call the people who actively ignored and threw away your mail?
Yes, you do.
That sounds incredibly awkward. What do you even say? Yeah. Hi, why did you throw my letter in the trash?
It might feel socially awkward, but it is the most valuable, unvarnished market research you will ever conduct in your life.
I can imagine.
You approach it gently as an inquiry. You say, "Hi, I sent you a letter last week regarding water contamination. Did you happen to receive it? Was the offer unclear? Is this something you simply don't have a need for right now?"
And what they tell you on that phone call is pure gold.
Exactly. They might tell you the premise was wrong from the start. They might say, "Oh, we don't use activated carbon in our facility. We use a completely different chemical process."
So your list targeting was wrong?
Or they might tell you, "I read it, but I didn't understand what you were offering for free." You take that direct feedback, you rewrite your copy, you fix the offer, you adjust the list parameters, and you test another 300 names. Calling the non-responders turns a failed test into vital, actionable intelligence.
It prevents you from spending tens of thousands of dollars rolling out a fundamentally flawed campaign.
Exactly.
It reframes failure entirely. It's not a rejection, it's just raw data guiding you to the right answer.
That's the mindset you need.
Okay, so let's assume the test was successful, we rolled out the rest of the list, and the reply cards are rolling in. We are getting a solid 3% response rate. How do we know if the campaign is actually profitable for the business?
We have to track it all the way to the finish line by looking at the conversion rate.
Conversion rate from lead to sale.
Right. Getting the yellow card back is only step one. Step two is the sales team actually turning that interested lead into a paying customer.
And what's a good number there?
The source states that a healthy, functional conversion rate from a qualified direct mail lead to an actual closed sale is between 10% and 25%.
Okay, so if you generate 100 leads from your campaign, your sales team should be closing 10 to 25 of them into revenue.
Correct.
What if I am getting a massive response rate, say 10% of the list is sending back the card, but my sales team is only closing 2% of them? I'm getting tons of leads, but nobody's actually buying the product.
That's a huge red flag. If your conversion rate plummets under 5%, you have a structural problem in your messaging. It usually indicates one of two specific failures.
Which are?
First, your sales letter might be fundamentally misleading. You promise one thing in the letter to get them to reply, but when the salesperson actually calls, they're selling something entirely different, and the prospect feels bait and switched and hangs up.
That makes sense. Nobody likes a bait and switch.
Second, and this is incredibly common, your free gift or premium might be too attractive in isolation.
Ah, I see. So people are just filling out the yellow card because they want the free iPad or the free generic report, but they have absolutely zero interest in the heavy industrial machinery you are actually selling.
Exactly. You've inadvertently attracted professional freebie seekers instead of qualified buyers.
You sacrifice lead quality for lead quantity by using a misaligned bribe.
The premium you offer must be highly relevant to the core product, not just generically valuable, so it only attracts people who actually have the problem you solve.
That makes perfect sense. The math has to align from the postage all the way to the closed sale.
Every step of the way.
I have one last strategic question based on the outline. Do I send just one single solitary letter to this list? Or do I barrage them with a multi-part series of letters over a few weeks?
It depends entirely on the total size of your addressable market and the physical capacity of your sales staff.
How so?
If you are operating in a massive market, say you have 200,000 viable prospects across the country, but you only have 3 salespeople on staff.
You'd bury them in leads.
You'd crush them. You send a solo mailing, heavily staggered over time. You want to generate a steady, manageable trickle of leads that your staff can actually follow up on promptly without getting overwhelmed and dropping the ball.
And you focus all your energy on tweaking that one solo mailing to get the highest response rate possible, lowering your cost per lead.
Exactly. But what if your universe of prospects is tiny?
Like our example of the 1,200 radiology managers. I could mail that entire list in a single afternoon. If I only mail them once and get a 2% response, I only have 24 leads and I've exhausted my entire market.
When your universe of prospects is small and highly defined, a one-shot solo mailing is insufficient. You will exhaust your list immediately. In that scenario, the strategy shifts to a multi-part series.
A sequence of mailings.
The source suggests a structured three-part sequence, perhaps a postcard preview to build anticipation, followed a week later by the full, comprehensive invitation package with the letter and reply card, and then a follow-up reminder letter a few weeks after that.
But logically, you have to experience diminishing returns with that approach, right? If someone ignored the first two letters, the odds of them magically replying to the exact same offer on the third try have to be significantly lower.
Oh, the law of diminishing returns absolutely applies here. The general rule of thumb presented in the text is that response rates effectively halve with each subsequent repeat mailing to the same list.
Wow, half.
Yeah. If your first highly optimized letter pulls a 5% response, mailing that exact same list again might pull a 2.5% response, and the third mailing might only pull a 1.25% response.
So eventually, the cost of printing and postage outweighs the value of the dwindling leads.
Exactly. That is the signal that you have fatigued the list, and you must invent a completely new package with a radically different angle or offer and start the cycle over.
When we take a step back and look at everything we've explored today, I mean, from the incredibly specific list hygiene and magazine audits to the visual psychology of the courier font, the window envelope trick with the return label, and the brutal, unforgiving math of that 1% baseline response rate, it completely reframes the medium.
It really does. If we synthesize all these disparate elements into one cohesive idea, it leads to a very clear, defining insight about this industry.
Which is?
Direct mail is not an exercise in graphic design. It is not about writing soaring, beautiful prose or winning creative advertising awards. It is a highly disciplined, mechanical, and psychological mechanism.
It is exactly like building a mechanical watch. Every single gear has to mesh perfectly.
Perfectly. From the physical weight of the paper in their hand, to the contrasting visual color of the reply card, to the exact empathetic wording of the opening question, or the deeply strategic decision to omit a teaser entirely to create an information gap. Every single choice is engineered with one sole purpose.
To get them to act.
And that purpose is to make it as physically easy and psychologically irresistible as possible for the right person to raise their hand and say, "Tell me more." It is the ultimate exercise in managing physical friction and weaponizing human curiosity.
It is truly incredible when you realize the sheer level of psychological engineering that goes into something most people just, absent-mindedly sort through on their kitchen counter or office desk.
It's an invisible science.
But for the entrepreneur or marketer who understands this hidden architecture, that pile of mail on the desk is the most valuable, reliable real estate in the business world. Think about the scenario you can now create. You've done the work. You sourced the perfect, highly audited list. You engineered the perfect Trojan horse envelope that slipped right past the gatekeeper. You wrote a breathable, typed letter that hit the 5-step motivating sequence flawlessly.
The trap is set.
The prospect was so overwhelmed by the information gap you created, they physically tore off that perforated canary yellow card and they dropped it in the mail. You managed the friction, the math worked out, the lead came in, and now that card is sitting on your desk. The mechanism operated perfectly.
The system works.
But what exactly do you say when you pick up the telephone to call them? How do you transition from a carefully constructed printed promise to a live, real-time human conversation without losing the momentum and breaking the magic?
That's the real challenge.
Well, that is a question for another deep dive.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.